5:36 p.m. And thank you all for being here. I do want to note immediately that SAPA is broadcasting this meeting live, and I want to thank Jared Gunnels of SAPA for doing that for us. And the other thing I would say before we begin is that I'm going to be counting on the person who I know has run the most of these meetings by this method that's new to us, and that is our superintendent, David Baker. I'm technologically challenged, and so I'm going to call on you, David, to help with the different technical aspects of that. Thank you. And with that, we always begin by pledging the flag, and I've got one right behind me. And if you would all please join.
You'll need to unmute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Howdy, Jean Marie. Howdy, Kristen. Howdy, Becky.
Thank you.
Hi.
Our first item would be changes or additions to the agenda. I have one, which didn't make it on, but it's a discussion of the Hicks-Nichols Spring 2020 grants. And I actually have one more, which is that doesn't appear on our agenda, which is adding the items for the next agenda, which would come at the end. Are there any other changes?
Is there sort of within one of the things on the agenda the ability to talk about the budget and the
recommendations? Specifically, recommendations from the Budget Advisory Committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have one question. I was going to ask you about that and whether you felt it was appropriate to put it forward now. The only thing, Anne, that I'm thinking there is that I know I have received the recommendations. Mm-hmm. And some of the other board members have received it, but I didn't see where Jean Marie or David.
Oh, okay. I just sort of responded all to that email. I thought everybody was on it. Okay. Well, if you want, I mean, I guess I can send it to everyone. I can even make it a little neater than what it is, and we can talk about it the next meeting if you want to do that.
Yeah, I have read the attachment that was sent to me. It is grim at best. And I'm wondering if we should wait until we have better information. It's speculatory at best. So I just don't want to alarm anyone. I did read it. I am prepared to discuss it, but a little apprehensive about doing so. And Sean, the other thing I don't see on the agenda is the hiring of, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 personnel, and the retirement of almost as many. Let me look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 either retirements or resignations.
Okay. In my email to you yesterday, Jean Marie, I asked if you would cover those under the principal's report. Is that
right?
Okay,
well, I'm willing to do it, but David usually recommends. But if you want, I have all the information and I'm ready. If David is fine with that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me.
Okay. There's probably one retirement, David, you probably want to announce. I can do the other 5.
Yes, that works.
okay?
So we'll do that under principal report.
Okay.
Okay, and to finish on your question, Anne, would you be willing to, would you like to summarize the fact that we have received a communication from the Budget Advisory Committee and that we would discuss the details next time? Or just want to put it off?
Yeah, I can just say that I spoke, who I spoke with, and and then just say that we'll talk about it next time after I'm able to sort of put it into a better, more readable form.
If everyone's in possession of a copy of the agenda, Anne, if I could add that as, if I could have Hicks Nichols as item F and the communication from the Budget Advisory Committee as item G, without objection. Okay. With that, are there any members of the public who are on this call who would like to identify themselves and any concerns that they're bringing to this meeting?
I see Jessica Brown is here. Yep.
Yep, I'm here, Jessica Brown.
Okay. And Jessica, are you here to address a specific concern or just general?
I'm here for the athletics follow up from my questions at team meeting or at at the town meeting. And I would like to just ask, is there a way for agendas to be published beforehand? I know obviously with a lot going on, but I don't believe last month's was posted beforehand either.
Yeah, they're always on the website. I know that. I'm not sure how else they get posted. They probably get posted in public places, and my guess is certainly this one we couldn't travel to public places. That would be my guess. So I know it should be on the website, but maybe
it's not on the Weathersfield page of the website. It might be under the supervisory union side of it because I looked today to make sure.
Yeah, it should have been on your. It should have been on your page.
I'm also posting it on Facebook on the Weathersfield and surrounding towns page on Facebook. I posted the agenda as well as the time and place for the meeting tonight and how to get on the call.
Jessica, I just took a picture of the agenda and I'm sending it to you now.
Awesome, thanks.
You're welcome.
Sean, I just remembered one other thing.
Yeah.
Also, I believe we had hoped to hear from Craig with regards to the plans for how he was going to do the transition to one kitchen.
Yes, and I spoke with David about that, and that will fall under the superintendent's report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We will hear from Greg under that category.
So Sean, tell me again, F was Hicks Nichols. What was G?
G is reporting Anne Marie to report on her meeting with the Budget Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And I think we'll probably discuss the details of that at our next meeting. We'll make an agenda item, but it's important to get that out.
Can you all see that agenda?
This is magical what
Yes.
you're doing to the agenda here. I did notice what Jessica points out is true, which is that we still have what has been an ongoing problem of our board documents being posted up to date on the school website, and that I know that Larry is doing so much right now to keep people connected and do everything with relation to technology. But this is one we've been working on for ever since I've been on the board, is making sure that those minutes and agendas are up to date and available on our website, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, there's no reason for that. I don't understand it. I'll check on it. I mean, obviously it has been crazy time, but we've been talking about that for a long time.
Yep.
So we can make that happen. There's no reason why that shouldn't happen. Matter of fact, I might email Diane and Jen. I think it's Diane and Jen Tessia that take care of this. So I will figure that out with them.
Can I make a comment about that? So one thing you need to check out, this is Becky, can you hear me?
Yep.
Is that I think before they post them, you guys have to approve them. I'm not sure. That's something to know. If they can post them before they're approved, they could post them a lot faster. Because sometimes it'll be like 3 months before some of them get approved if there's not enough people. I don't know. David, do you know what they're doing about that?
Yeah, they can post them as draft minutes. They just can't post them as approved minutes. So I don't know what happened. I'm going to email Diane and Jen right now and see where that broke down, because it's not Larry and Ryan's fault. They can only post what they get from Diane and Jen. So I'm not trying to throw them under the bus either. And, you know, everybody's working from home, but, you know, Diane's done this long enough, and Jen's certainly been almost a year now at this. So we'll just find out what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we move into items for discussion. And A is a portrait of a graduate update. I would say that the last portrait of a graduate meeting was scheduled for March 12th, and that was right at the moment that we were really working on suspending school. And so, David, can you update us on where that stands now?
Yeah, we had meetings set, right? We had 3 meetings set up for phase 2, and they were going to rotate again around to the buildings. Weathersfield was going to be a site again. We have had some private conversations with Mike Nicholson and Battelle for Kids, and just given the situation, we've just decided to postpone. My guess is we'll pick that up, you know, either in late summer or early fall. It does put us a year behind because we had hoped to have that strategic plan, at least in draft form, by the beginning of the school year. And that's, you know, that didn't happen. We do have the competencies done and finished, and we do have at least a draft of the I forget what he calls it, but the logo basically. So I could get that out to the committee so they can look at it, give us some feedback, and then we could make that final. But I think the rest of the work is just going to have to be on hold. It's too bad, but that's just the way it is.
The thing I've been thinking in relation to that is that I've supported this exercise of Portrait of a Graduate to the extent that it gives all of our schools a chance to meet together and talk about possible reforms to the way that we do school. The blessing, if you can call it that, of our current situation is that so many families have been put in a position of really evaluating the role of the school in their lives and what education looks like. And in a way, that presents a golden opportunity that didn't previously exist for Portrait of a Graduate to actually mean something. So although it at the moment it feels like the work that we did up to this point has sort of been set aside, I just want to point out that there's also an opportunity for it to be broadened and deepened when we come back together.
Yeah, and you're not going to believe that, Sean, but that's exactly what Michael said. We should be using this as a time to essentially, you know, experiment with some of this idea of school without walls and project-based learning and competency-based instruction. So I think that's part of it, and we'll take notes, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us as we enter into that phase to learn from what we're going through right now. Not the best of circumstances, but a good chance to learn about how to do this project-based learning a little bit better than we maybe have in the past.
I don't know how the other board members feel, but I would hope that we're not going to sit on our hands about it and be ready when the time comes to get together again and with a renewed focus.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further about Portrait of a Graduate?
I think we're good.
Okay, hearing none. Our next object is complete the board reorganization, and there are 3 positions unfilled to this point. One is the vice board chair. The second is appointing a 3rd member to the SU board. And the 3rd is appointing a signer of the manifest. Now, I'm clear about the first 2. David, will you remind us what the signer of the manifest is doing?
Right. So the signer of the manifest essentially has to go down twice a month when we're paying bills. Of course, that's not happening right now, but once we sort of crank up, and that happens twice a month. I think it's on the 10th and the 24th or something. And the signer of the manifest looks through the invoices and the warrants, and the printed copy of the manifest is just a list of those invoices. I think they might be in alphabetical order or date order. And then they basically just sign off on that. It's one cover sheets that they sign. And then that basically says somebody on the Weathersfield School Board has looked at the invoices for Weathersfield, and they've basically approved them, just so that we, make sure that Gene doesn't book a cruise or I don't fly to Tahiti or any of that stuff. So that's what the signer of the manifest. I think, Sean,
Yeah, I've been doing that.
Who's done that?
Me as the clerk.
Okay, Kristen. And so
Yeah.
you've been copying it at the central office?
Yeah.
Okay,
I
yeah.
love last year. And then now I'm just getting them via email. So,
Okay.
Are you willing to continue in that capacity?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Then we know that. Let's do them in order, though. And so we're looking for a nomination to the vice chair of the board. Are there any nominations?
Don't everybody jump at once.
There's nothing that prevents me from making a nomination, is there?
Absolutely not.
Well, I have to say that Anne Marie has been taking quite an active role, and I would, if I were to fall off of a log, I would certainly trust her to carry on. And so I would nominate Anne Marie Redmond to the position of vice chair.
Thank you.
Anne Marie, would you accept it if appointed?
Yes.
Okay. It could use a second if somebody wants to second it.
I second. This is Robin.
Robin Tyndall seconds.
Are there any other nominations? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of Anne Marie Redmond as our vice chair of this board, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, please say nay.
And I did counsel Sean that if we have votes tonight and there is a negative vote, a nay vote, then Sean has to call the roll. If we don't have a negative vote, then we are fine to just move forward in this remote format. So sounds like that's approved 5-0, right?
Yeah, that might have been my horse out there saying nay.
4-0. Yeah, we don't have Mark on board. Yeah, that's right. We don't have Mark.
Actually, the nice thing about my horses is that they're made of plastic, and so they never say nay.
Yeah, there you go.
My favorite kind. I don't have to feed them either. The appointment of a third member to the SU board. Are there any nominations for that?
Can we nominate somebody who's not here? Because I think we were thinking about Mark.
I thought Mark was interested.
Yeah, he mentioned that. He did mention that. And you
So I would
can
nominate him if I'm allowed to nominate him in his absence.
Yeah. That'll just show him, and it'll teach him to show up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that my understanding of Robert's rules does not cover this eventuality. Is it okay may we elect a member that's not present?
Yes, you can.
Oh, good. I second.
Yeah.
No, I won't waste time, Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Is there any further discussion of this important role? Yeah, I have some. Serving on the SU board is really interesting. I find it fun because I'm not the chair, so I get to be very critical of everything that goes on, and I don't have to be as diplomatic. So I really, and it's not only that, but you're in touch with some of the leading lights of Windsor County. It's it's not a terrible place to be. And as much as we complain about the role of the supervisory union, we do have representatives on that board. And in my view, it has been important and useful for us to be squeaky wheels in that machine, if as necessary. But it's also been important for us to be supportive where that has been warranted. So I commend those who serve on this board, and I think it's one of the more interesting things we get to do. Hearing no further conversation of it, all those in favor of electing Mark Youngling to be our third member of the Supervisory Union Board, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none. Congratulations, Mark.
Wherever you are,
Wherever you are.
Mrs. Calabash.
Okay, the third, I think this is going to be easy, to appoint a signer of the manifest. And knowing that Kristen has expressed willingness to continue in this office, I would nominate Kristen Brusso.
I second that nomination.
Are there any more nominations? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Kristen Brusso to be the signer of the manifest, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Thank you, Kristen.
Welcome.
The next item on our agenda is called CDC update. Now, I think that this stems from our February 3rd meeting when the board directed our administrators to prepare and present plans for how our schools would manage communicable diseases. That has, of course, moved forward in a very big way since last we met, and so there have been a lot of recommendations and a lot of actions taken. So I'm not sure where that leaves us. I would almost think that we would kind of kick this forward to David's report, because so much of the decision making around this has really, as you guys know, our board has not been involved particularly in these. Our board has made, I know that we've made recommendations and requests, but the executive decisions have been made by our central office. And so without objection, I would like to kind of move the CDC update and the COVID-19 crisis actions up to the superintendent's report and the principal's report as appropriate. Without objection? Okay.
Sounds good.
Jim, if you're on the line, would you please unmute yourself, because our next item is an update from you. And we're specifically asking about how the new trash law will be implemented. I know that some of the pressure has been taken off because two of our kitchens aren't going to be producing organic waste. But
yeah, we're ready.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, we're ready for. Excuse me. Even with the uncertainty now, we're ready for the start of July 1 with that. So we'll be good. We'll be good on food scraps and rubbish, and it's pretty basic for you guys at Wethersfield, as it is everywhere.
Can you tell us how that's going to happen?
Well, what's basically going to happen is when with the combined of the kitchens, we're going basically, if you think of it SU wide, we're going with, Carcella's is already our collector at Wethersfield anyway. And so what's going to happen is we can still use the compost pile out there, but what's going to happen is they're going to come in and they're going to have the three. You've probably been everywhere. You've seen the thing for trash, recycle, and compost. And then what will happen is we'll take the zero sort out like we always have. We'll take the trash out like we always have, and hopefully reduce that. And then the compost, there'll be another little container out there where where they will also be taking the compost, except for what we want to use there in the building, or in our outbuilding around the side.
Okay.
So Jim, are they, Jim, Casella is providing all of the receptacles?
Casellas will be supplying all the receptacles, yes, and the signage. The only thing working around the clock and getting the buildings and everything done, the only thing we haven't finalized is exactly what signages that we want yet, and pretty much the buckets are on order. But yeah, they're going to provide all that, and it's budgeted down. It's budgeted down where I think I didn't know we were talking about this tonight, so my mind's someplace else. I'm sorry about that, but it's budgeted down where our trash bill at Weathersfield is going up very minimally, if at all. Is
Jim, for the
Yes.
oh, and I want to call to Anne Marie.
Yeah, I just had a question. Are we expecting that the kids are gonna like separate their own garbage into these 3 different receptacles?
Yeah.
Or?
Yes, ma'am. So the
Okay.
big thing is that we've been to a number of other schools, and it's going to take a community and a school-wide effort to institute this, because at every other school it takes a while to get it going, but they actually have people sit there and you educate the students, train the students. Then the students want to become involved, because you can do contests where we tried one at one of the schools last year where we put coverings down in the parking lot, and we put out 1 day's worth of garbage out there, and then after we challenged each class to try to get everything in the right pile. And then the next 2 days we went grade by grade, and we did this with the middle school and up. We went grade by grade and we put it out there, and the kids actually got pretty excited as we made it a competition about how it reduced the garbage when things went into the right pile.
That's
I
interesting.
don't know if that
Thank you.
answers.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if it's okay at this point to invite Craig in to unmute, because I know that your food education will be a big part of that.
Yeah, so it's all about education, and it's gonna take, like Jim said, it's gonna take the community and to get this program up and running properly and successfully. I think that we're thankful in Weathersfield because we have a fair amount of we have Teresa in the dining hall, if she's going to be there next year, with helping with trash and recycling, and she does a lot of that on a daily basis. But yeah, it's gonna take some time, and I've been screaming about it for a while. And I know David and Jim have been a little irritated with me about it, but I come from schools that are much bigger, and I know the challenge behind it. So we need to all about educating, and I think Weathersfield is unique, as I always say, in that they're very disciplined and structured. And I think that it will, if we have the proper setup and signage, I think it will be successful. Taking out the compost, the daily grind of taking care of the compost is not going to be the issue. It's contamination and making sure that the kids are putting it in the right. I mean, it's going to take some. Nobody's going to police it, I don't believe. Just like everything else, state puts into procedure, there's a good old 6 to 8 month grace period to get this thing rolling. And it's just each day is a new day. We need to have focus on the goal.
Craig, the quality of your line is poor, but I'm getting the gist of what you're saying.
Yeah.
From Wethersfield history, I know that there was a science project of a few years ago where the kids, where there was an effort to separate the organic trash and just weigh it every single day. I really like the idea of what Jim is saying about using this as an opportunity for that thing that you described of spreading out the trash and seeing if you could visually make it smaller. That's the kind of thing that's a tremendous opportunity for our kids. And it sounds like you guys are on a good track.
Thank you.
I would like to remind Jim, though, that we do eat in the classrooms. We have breakfast after the bell and we have snacks. Currently, we just have a waste basket and recycling bins. So we will need that third bin for the classrooms, and then we'll need a plan how that all comes together and where it goes.
Yeah, believe it or not, we thought of that, and that was due to Craig's experience, because in some of the schools he's worked at, they've had those little bins in each classroom. So I believe, Jean Marie, that we've got that covered.
I think the key, though, Jean Marie, this is David. I think the key, Jean Marie, is that building by building, we're going to have to set up a system to get those compost baskets to the centralized location. And buildings do that a lot of different ways. Craig is right. The cafeteria will create the largest quantity of compost, but that's the education piece. It starts in the classroom, it moves to the cafeteria, and that's just getting those kids educated around how do you use those three bins. And I'll tell you, even in homes, when we first started it in my house, it takes education, and I still find a bottle or a can in the trash, and I don't have any little kids. These are just big kids who act like little kids, and so I have to constantly go back and say, no, that's recyclable. I think we'll get through it, and I think Casella has a great educational program, lots of materials, and the woman, what's the name of the woman you're working with, Jim?
It escapes me right now.
That's okay, but
Paula.
she's been very
Paula.
Yeah, Paula will, she's going to meet with the administrative team. She'll, we could even do that, maybe even virtually if we wanted to. And she's got a good system for implementing this throughout the entire. And like Jim said, it's going to be the least amount of change in terms of a cost and vendor, because you've had Casella Waste Management for a long time. Some of these other, a couple of our other districts are going to have to change trash and rubbish removal folks, because they can't handle, they can't handle this kind of sort and select. So.
Yeah, I don't know what else we have here, but it strikes me as a great learning opportunity. And I gather that Alora and Leanna have also worked on this with their kindergartners. Laura, Leanna, do either of you want to come in as teachers to comment on what you've done already?
They're trying to unmute. Leanna's getting it. She's getting
Laura
it.
posted a comment. I can't read it
that.
and talk to you at the same time, though. But
Yeah. There's Leanna. She's got it.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, Laura and I took a workshop, a composting workshop, because we were starting to do this with our kindergartners. So we were going to do it this spring more so, but there is a barrel, I believe, in the shed or in the garage. that we got from the workshop. So we're familiar with it, and we've been kind of talking with our kindergartners about it in the past.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, that'll be great. We have to find that barrel.
yeah, I'm sure Lauren knows where it is.
Yeah.
Well,
My-
the change of
Laura
heart
said
is
it-
going to be the real tool. Go ahead.
Laura said it's in the garage, and there might be individual buckets for us to use in the classroom, right?
Yes. I'm not sure if you can hear me well enough because my Wi-Fi is a little sketchy here. So, but there is an actual composting barrel, one of the small black ones that we received from the composting workshop. It is in the garage. It's in a box. It's brand new. And we did get little bins that were supposed to go into the classrooms, but honestly, I can't call how many bins we actually were able to get.
Yeah, and I think Jim, the bins you're looking at for the classroom, Jim, I think aren't they going to have, and maybe these do too, Laura, but I think they have covers on them, right?
Yes,
Yeah, 'cause
that's correct.
With compost, that's important that you have a covered bin because it can create an interesting odor, if you know what I mean. But I think that's fine. And maybe yours have covers. Do you know whether yours had covers or not, Laura? Laura's trying to come back on. Oh, Leanna, do you remember?
I'm pretty sure they do, yes. They were
Okay.
from the actual workshop, so.
Good. Good.
I'd like to.
I just have a few quick.
I'd like to state the obvious, Robin, not to cut you off,
Okay.
but it seems to me, and from the previous weighing of the daily garbage, it was obvious then and now, I think, that the most important thing we're going to have to do, and the most conservative act that we can do, is to reduce the amount of waste. And I really feel that having better food is a foundational piece of that. That we want to be serving meals that kids are less liable to throw away. I think that we've covered that. I know that our Craig and Heather and Cliff in our school have worked on portion sizes and helping kids not take food that they don't want. But that's going to be the key piece, because this is going to cost us money too, getting rid of those organics. The most important thing is for us to not waste food. And that is going to be the most important thing. Sorry, Robin.
Oh, that's okay. I just had a few comments that mostly come from my experience at work, where kind of starting our compost 6 or 7 years ago was part of my job. And this was in a place with adults, and we definitely knew that education, as Craig said, was going to be really key. And I would say what we've learned over the past 6 or 7 years is that education never ends. And I would actually argue that the kids will probably get it better than the adults that I work with have gotten it. But education doesn't stop, and that goes for, we have lots of recycling programs along with compost, but we need to educate continuously and continually. So just anyone thinking about how to incorporate that into the curriculum, it's going to be an awesome opportunity. Starting with kindergartners is the best, because they're going to soak it up and remember it the whole time that they're there. Educating the adults as well is going to be key. So sounds like, Craig knows a lot about that aspect, and the teachers are already on it. So that's awesome. Another thing about that trash audit, I don't know what you called it, Jim, but I've done that a lot at work too. So I'd be happy to volunteer and come on in and run a couple of periodic audits with the kids. We could do, one at the beginning of the school year, one in the middle, and one at the end to try to show improvement and learning. We could also do it as a competition with several different ones. So I'd be happy to volunteer for that. And then just my last comment, someone already touched on about the covers, and we decided to do that, just through trial and error at work. And of course, we're there in the summer, but people felt very strongly about the need for covers, and it has really worked to have covers. Even in September and October, there's fruit flies that can be annoying. So
That's awesome.
That's helpful, Robin. We'll definitely take you up on it.
So can I just add something? This is one thing that I think we need to implement, Jean-Marie, or at least think about, was with the compost bucket in the classrooms, every teacher uses or has the daily helper bring the compost down at some point in the day. So if most of the food waste is going to come from breakfast, after the bell, and snacks, correct? And so maybe they can pick 1 or 2 people to bring that down during lunch. Dump their bucket into the compost, put their bucket into the dish station, and maybe pick it back up at snack when they pick up snacks. But a daily routine of getting kids involved in bringing that compost bucket down to the dining hall kitchen to put the food waste in compost bucket.
So Craig, the only recommendation I would make is that, between 1:30 and 2, we have our afternoon snack, fresh fruits and vegetables. I would not advise that sit in the classroom overnight, especially May, June, August, September, October, really warm. So I think I'll talk it over with faculty, but I suspect they will want to bring it all down at 2 o'clock or when the snack is done. And we can even work it out that Teresa's there. She works until 2:30. So I know that we could have it done by then. Teresa could assist. And then it's not in the classroom overnight. And then they're doing it once. It would be at the end of the day.
All right.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. Anything else on the new trash law? Jim?
Yeah.
I know you've been a busy man these days, and some of the things that you've been working on will come under the superintendent's report. But did you have anything to add at this time?
Well, is this the proper time to go over the CDC thing that you're talking about to try to bring everybody up to snuff on what we're doing and how we got where we're at? Not necessarily for the buses, but for everything, for the kitchen. Is this a good time for me to do that?
I'm gonna defer to David on that.
Yeah, well, we might want to and I know Craig's had a long day and Jim's had a long day, so maybe, and we all have, but maybe we could do that part now and talk about the Child Development Division and the Food Nutrition Program and kind of where we are right now. And since we've got Craig and Jim on the phone, we can have that conversation. Is there any objection to that? Is that okay if we just carry on, and then when we're done, unless they both had something else, we could let them go?
Yeah, I'd like to get Jim and Craig in. That's a great idea.
Okay. So we and Jean-Marie will certainly attest to this, but we put probably a good 2 weeks of planning into trying to adhere a little better to both the AOE guidelines and the CDC guidelines, especially as it pertains to our food program. And part of what we had to do was we had to make the difficult decision because everything was going well in the 3 sites. But we had to make the difficult decision to combine the sites, and we're only combining the sites for preparation and packaging. We're still going to be delivering in the same manner that we delivered before, and those buses will still be they'll pick up the food in Windsor, but they'll deliver the food. They'll pick up the volunteers in Heartland, and they'll pick up the volunteers in Wethersfield, and they'll continue to do the routes that they've always done. I did send out to the board a variety of reasons, but the biggest reason was with a reduced custodial staff, the idea of trying to really sanitize those kitchens. And if you could see what's going on right now in Windsor, and Craig and Jim can tell you what's going on in the last couple of days, Monday and Tuesday. Jim's been sending me pictures and videos of what's going on. But we essentially took every ounce of equipment out of that kitchen, and we are scrubbing from top to bottom, sanitizing from top to bottom. And I think Jim and Craig have done a masterful job of setting up a staging system whereby the food will be prepared. There'll only be 3 or 4 people in that kitchen preparing the food. Then it'll be staged in the multi-purpose room, which is 2 times bigger than any multi-purpose room we have at Heartland or at Weathersfield. So we can separate out Mount Ascutney, Weathersfield, and Heartland. And then we've got some good help from Jim's custodial crew, because they're going to bring that food in the containers up to the staging area, and they will actually load it onto the buses. So I think it's going to be a good system. I think the quality of the food will continue to be excellent. I just want to applaud Jim and Craig for all the hard work that's gone into it. And I don't know if, before people ask questions, whether or not Jim and Craig, you want to elaborate on that or talk about what's been going on the last couple of days?
Craig, do you want to talk about the food first, or do you want me to elaborate on the bigger picture?
You can go on the bigger picture, Jim.
Yeah, so I think it's important. I think it's important that we all realize that decisions like this that are made, it's like we're working with risk management. We're working with Visbit, which is basically, as all you board members know, is our insurance company. We're also working with the National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, and that's all in conjunction with the CDC. If you look at their guidelines, like I got busy on this and started this on March 16th, and if you look, they have an hierarchy of controls, which is 1 through 5, one being what they think is the most effective, and 5 being which is the least effective. And they ask us, so the question is, how would we ever handle something like this? We're doing it now. So if you don't mind, I'd just briefly like to go over what came about. So number 1, which is the most effective thing, is elimination. So risk management, I've been talking back and forth with them and with Visbit. And so for the number 1, the most effective thing would be you'd close all the buildings, all the rooms, and everything that you could in any building possible. The second chain of that is substitution, which is basically we substitute one building for another building where everybody can work, so we'd only have essential people. The number 3 is engineering control, which basically was what we'd be doing at whichever place that we had, if another place was big enough, where we'd have one area, one entrance, one exit. We can control that. The fourth thing is they have a thing called administrative control, because they also they don't know everybody's building and everybody's SU, so that's where they use David's expertise. And then the 5th and final thing that we've been working on is PPE, the protective personal equipment. So basically, I know it sounds like a lot, but basically it's not a tug of war or anything. It's pretty much common sense as you go down through there. Our job is to protect our communities, protect our workers, and still furnish the best product for whether it's food, shipping, receiving, anything, so we can do the best job that we can possibly do. Along with that, since the beginning of that, I think the other thing that I talked about at the SU board meeting, I know Sean was part of that, with every cleaner, disinfectant that we're using meets or exceeds the CDC's requirements. Right now we're basically using SU-wide, we're using 5 disinfectant cleaners, which are all up to date. We've got a brand new one that this peroxide Clorox Fusion, which is the next generation, which is good. And then we're using 4 different types of sanitation wipes and stuff, like anything from Food Service 200, where the only thing I've got any complaint about that is it may leave spots, but we actually have stuff where you can go and spray it. You leave it wet. You don't even have to dry it off, and that touch spot then is supposedly decontaminated from 99.9% of the stuff. So I think we've been ahead of the curve, and I think we're doing the best that we can. I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't done stupid stuff, but I'm trying to make everybody safe, happy, and efficient. So does that answer anybody's questions?
And by the way, just so everybody knows, we could have centralized at any one of the buildings. And the reason we chose Windsor, A, it was bigger, B, it was centralized. And the biggest reason we chose Windsor is because when the program is centralized in Windsor, it allows us then to be what's considered a universal site. That's why we're able to deliver these meals to every child without a free and reduced application, because they qualified under some I'm trying to remember how they do it, but it's like red zoning, really. They look at the area, they look at the average income within that area just surrounding that school, and that qualifies us for universal meals. And that means we can satellite out to anybody we want to. We could, not that we're going to, but we could go to Cornish, Plainfield, we could go to Springfield if we wanted to. But that's what's allowing us in Wethersfield and in Heartland to feed every child we don't have to worry about a roster. We don't have to worry about a free and reduced lunch application. But it was also about the quality of food. And I don't know whether, if you have questions for Jim, that's fine, or Craig could just finish, then we could take questions for both of them if anybody has questions. Craig, do you want to talk about the food operation?
Yeah, sure. So, since we've started this whole summer feeding program, I think it's every day is a challenge, and every day brings something different to the ball game. And I think Heather has stepped up to the plate the most professionally, efficiently, and respectfully. And I really do appreciate her. And I want to make sure that you guys understand that I've done everything in my power and David, to appreciate her and show her that we need her on our team and to be the leader of moving forward. So she has come on board, and we've talked multiple times, and she is going to be leading this charge starting April 20th. So I just want everybody to know that. I'm very proud of both teams at Heartland and Wethersfield. Well, I think we've done a great job providing quality meals. Very different, like I always say, 2 different schools, 2 different programs, 2 different things, but we've done very well at providing a quality meal for each student and family, and I'm proud of that. So starting yesterday, we ripped into Windsor. I had the opportunity to walk through that kitchen on Friday with Cafe Services, and it was probably the most awkward experience I've had in my life. But it's over, and we're moving forward. So we went in there. Rodney is our new hire that's going to be overseeing Windsor, and he started yesterday, and we ripped all the equipment out of that kitchen for the most part and started scrubbing the hood system down to the walls and the floors and organizing and restructuring. So, I mean, the place is very clean, a lot cleaner than it was. We're excited. I think we have a good platform to continue to provide quality meals for the whole district. It's not going to really change, other than we're going to be making 700 meals at once rather than 250 and 250 and 200 or what. So it's going to be just another day of operation for us with a little bit of. Heather's coming in tomorrow. We're gonna make a menu. Thursday, we're gonna do all the ordering and so Heather's working. We're all working tomorrow. We're all working Thursday. We're gonna start producing on Friday, and we're gonna put together a menu that's sustainable for Monday, that we can produce 700 meals and get it out there on a timely manner, and feel good about it. I think Wendy Moody has made an amazing schedule of volunteers. So we're in good shape for volunteers. To keep us all safe in the kitchen, I think we're going to stagger. We have 5. Well, there's 4 employees: Heather, Grady, Rodney, and Emily. Emily is the cook at Heartland, and Grady has been at Wethersfield and Heartland. But we're going to start 2 in early to produce the foods, 2 coming in later to package the food, and then we're going to roll it out. It's not going to be a lot of staggering, but it's going to be maybe an hour and a half difference. And then we're going to have all food. Goal is to have all the food produced and packaged by 9 a.m. That's going to be a challenge, but we're going to work hard at it, and we'll see what happens on Monday morning. We're going to produce all the food on Monday, on Friday, pretty much, and have it pretty much done and ready to be packaged on Monday morning. So I think we're in good. I'm confident that it's gonna be seamless. I don't think we're gonna have any big issues. Like the team that we have, our team is strong, and I'm confident that we'll make you proud. So it's just a challenge. It's just another daily challenge. Every day is something new, and we will step up to the challenge and get it done.
Craig,
questions?
That's a good summary.
Craig,
Sean, go ahead, Sean.
Thanks. Well, the word on the street in Wethersfield is that you've risen to this challenge in a way that really has surprised everyone. That what I've heard, we know from our kids that the meals have been different at school, but man, has the word started to come in from parents. Once these meals started to be delivered into the homes and people saw what their kids are getting under the new regime, it's been a very positive response, and people are rightfully feeling very grateful and amazed by the quality of what's coming home. And I hope you know that.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to thank Christine Bourne at Heartland and Jean Marie especially at Wethersfield, because this was not easy when you move something out of a locale and you want to get those volunteers and even Heather to agree. I mean, Jean worked hard with the community. There was a lot of misinformation out there at first. It was hard to track where that misinformation was coming from, but I heard everything from, well, now parents in Wethersfield are going to have to drive to Windsor to pick up the food.
Not true.
Not true. I heard that Windsor was just rabid with COVID, and that there were 6 active cases in the building, and 2 people had died in Windsor from COVID-19. Not true. So we had to dispel all these rumors as we began this. But I will tell you that the community's trust, they don't really trust me, but they do trust Jean Marie. They trust Laura. They trust Leanna, the people who are volunteering to do this work. And I really appreciate the way, and they trust Craig. I appreciate the way those folks stepped up, because as Jim said, we were hearing from our insurance company and from OSHA that we really needed to get this done. and a lot of work went into it. And I'm glad we were able to turn it around. And now, like Craig said, I think we just have to deliver. And I want to give a shout out to Mike Gaudette, the bus company. He's worked with those bus drivers and helped us all along the way. The bus drivers are resisting wearing the masks a little bit. They don't like it, and wearing the gloves. But we told them while they're driving, they don't have to have the mask on. But once they pull up at a stop and that door opens, they have to have their mask on. It's just protection for everybody. And we are providing the PPE, that equipment. We've ordered masks, we've ordered gloves, and everybody's going to be safe when we get back after vacation. And again, I want to shout out to Craig and Jim for an incredible effort. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time on any of this.
I just wanted to ask, how specifically is Craig going to deal with having social distancing between the different people within the kitchen, as well as like keeping like the bus drivers and the kitchen staff from commingling, or how all that's going to work?
So, Craig, you can talk about the kitchen, Craig, and I'll talk about the drivers.
Okay. So kitchen wise, we're all currently wearing masks. We're setting up the kitchen, so each station is a good amount of distance away from each other. So at least 6 feet, probably 8 feet, from 8 feet between each station. So that was one of the most important pieces of stripping that kitchen and then bringing everything back in and setting up stations that the folks are going to distance enough to keep them safe. And then with the staggering also, we're going to only, there's really going to be for the most part, 2 to 3 people in that kitchen at a time, with one person putting food out into the multi-purpose room where there's going to be more volunteers. So we won't really be interacting with the packaging team. We're going to be producing the food, packaging the food, and then the volunteers in the multi-purpose room will be bagging the product to be put on the buses. So basic wise, we're going to have a good amount of space. And then for busing, I mean, the bus drivers aren't even we're going to have the maintenance crew bring the food from multi-purpose room out to the buses. And if I'm incorrect, Jim, just let me know. But I think that was the case.
Yeah.
No, that's what we're doing.
And then the bus
correct.
drivers are just going to stay on the bus. So they're not even going to get off the bus. It's going to be driving. It's not going to be a lot of time because they got to get rolling by 9:30. So it's going to be package the meals, bring it out, load it on the bus, and go. So it's going to be pretty efficient.
Jim, did you have a comment?
No, I did not.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Anne Marie. We've told the bus drivers, do not even get off the bus. And the volunteers from Wethersfield and the volunteers from Heartland are going to actually meet at the school. So they're not going to be on the bus either. There'll be plenty of distancing there. And then it's 2 people on a bus. My understanding, Gene, you can correct me, they stay distanced on that bus as well. 1 volunteer toward the front, 1 volunteer toward the back. And we also keep our parents, when this has been going on right along, when the bus stops to deliver that food, some people put coolers out there and baskets out there, but essentially they stay back. We deliver the food, give them a little wave because they like that. They like that. It's a chance for them to see their paras and their teachers and their principal, and then back on the bus and we go to the next stop. So matter of fact, I think what Jean Marie was the one who said at one point, it's probably going to be safer because I think in your homeschool, you're more likely the bus drivers to get off the bus, walk in the multi-purpose room, just kind of, because everybody knows everybody. This way, I think it's even a little safer. They never get off that bus. They stay on that bus. They're masked and gloved, and then they just get the food loaded on and they take off. So I think it's going to work out well.
We do wear masks and gloves when we're on the bus, and we try to get we serve breakfast and lunch. So when we're on the bus, we're putting milk and juice in the bags because we want to keep it cool right until we deliver. And when we deliver, I did all the delivering I think I've ridden 6 times. And in the 6 times I've ridden, I do all the deliveries. So it's getting off the bus, and even if the kids do come out to say hello, we do honor social distancing. I've had a couple of tears. Those were my kindergartners. They wanted a hug. So a good time and the parents were great saying, no, remember we talked about that. You can't hug me, Milkman, today. But we blow kisses and we talk to each other, and I'll put the food down on the ground if they don't have a bucket. If they have a bucket, it goes in the bucket, and it's at least 6 feet from all of us. And then we just talk for a minute back on the bus. And volunteers can wait in their car until the bus comes. So there really is less exposure than usual.
Yeah. And the other, I don't want to embarrass her because she's on this call right now, but I think Jim will tell you that all the custodians, we're down to a little bit of a skeletal crew because some of our custodians, due to age, were exempt. But Kelly O'Brien, who's on the call, she's done a masterful job of keeping Wethersfield clean and kind of cleaning up behind the folks that are there. And I think Jim will tell you that's the case with all the custodians. They've done, I've said to all of these folks who are part of this food and custodial crew, they're really on the front lines, just like the doctors and the nurses and the EMTs, fire, police. I mean, I think they're right in that category of hero as we deliver those 700 meals, and I think it's going to increase. I wouldn't be surprised if we get up around 800, 900. It's amazing the number of kids that are being served and the number of parents who have said to me, is this going to stop? Are we going to have to end this? Because I don't know how we can't get out. The cabs and buses aren't really running. One woman told me for some reason she lost her food stamps. It's a mess for a lot of these families. A lot of them would qualify now because they are unemployed. So I just keep telling that crew that it's heroic and angelic work, and we should be proud of that work.
Amen.
I'm also you mentioned about the reduced lunch things like that. Is it possible to get out those forms to people? Maybe put them in each bag or something? I don't know.
You mean the free and reduced forms?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I know
well,
we don't need them now to cover the program because we're over the 50%, but I'm just for other school things.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, maybe toward the end of this, that might not be a bad idea because they're showing up right now. We don't need it because we're feeding everybody, and there's even talk about, Craig. I always ask Craig to sit down before I say this, but we do have a summer lunch program, and we may think about, we'll take a little time off, but just continuing this right throughout the summer. It's been so successful. And I've talked a little bit with Mike Godette and the bus company. They'd be willing to keep it going, and we'll just have to see. I think that'll be a board decision, but I would like to see it happen. Last summer, we only served about 100 meals. Now when you think about it, we're in summer mode right now, and we're serving 700 between, so that's amazing. Jean Marie used to drive from Wethersfield last summer to Windsor because we prepared in Windsor last summer too. And Jean Marie, right, you would drive down to Windsor, pick up that food, bring it back for your summer school kids. So
yep, we did. And we ran it the whole month of July. And we had summer school 3 days a week, the whole month, 5 weeks. And actually it was Jen Roos, BJ, Brian, myself. We took turns driving over and getting it. The food was phenomenal, and they let us get quite a few. So when parents and kids came in to pick up, there was enough food. And Anne Marie, I did want to mention to you that I did put the word out in an email, and I actually uploaded that form to the website and encouraged folks. BJ's very confidential about that. She's our free and reduced point person, and she doesn't tell anybody who applies. It's just a number. So it's highly confidential.
Thank you for doing that. Is there any word as to if we've had increased amounts of people filling out the forms, or?
Couple. Since I put that out and we put it on the web, we've had a couple.
I think some of people are kind of ignoring it because they don't need it now to eat, right? I mean, they're getting the lunches no matter what. But I think that would be a good thought for later on, as we get closer to the summer or closer to the school year. That's always a big push to get that application out there.
And yeah, I was going to ask about how does the planning for the volume of people that are going to be served during the summer, how does that happen? Thinking about how the summer is normally different from the school year. And in addition, to piggyback on what Anne Marie said, if we can get that form out there as more people are becoming unemployed as this thing peaks, that could be timing that's good for both, right? That it maximizes and gets a true picture by sending it out at the peak, and that it prepares us for planning for that summer period.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is an interesting question because I wrote a grant with MAP to get our summer school. So this is different. Mm-hmm. We are not even at a point where we're talking about summer school. We don't know. It's everything is up in the air. So it'll be interesting to see if we continue to feed everyone, which is what we've done today, everyone willing and who would like food. And we have a lot of high schoolers we're feeding too. And we're feeding little ones, birth right up through to high school. It'll be interesting.
Sorry, Jean.
Go ahead,
Jean. So if you really think about it, we're serving 250 breakfast and lunch 5 days a week. On the average, when we're in school, we serve about 65 breakfast and 145 to 155 lunches on a daily basis.
Wow.
If you really do the math, we're probably going to want to do this for the rest of our career.
Yeah, why bring them back to school?
Right?
Yeah.
But the other thing to think about is, and I talked to my friend Rosie Kruger at Child Nutrition the other day, and she's hearing what's going on in Windsor, and she's wanting us to deliver meals to hotels for the homeless, other communities where they don't have a good quality food program. So like David said earlier, there is a lot of opportunity because of what we're doing in Wethersfield and Heartland, that we can produce a lot more. And production, I say it confidently, if we can serve 500 people, we can serve 5,000 people. It doesn't mean, it's going to take a little bit more effort, but we're not scared. Well, we'll do what we have to do to make it happen on a daily basis. If you ask me what we're going to do for the summer, I don't know what we're going to. All I care about is what we're going to do tomorrow, and we'll figure it out. And not everybody loves that answer, but that's the only way I can function. So.
But I do like the idea from both Robin and Anne Marie, though, that we could kind of capture this peak, and there's nothing saying we couldn't get those applications out.
No, I think it's important.
Yeah, we can think about that. Let's get a week or two under our belt with this new system, and then we'll think about how we can do it.
Furthermore, what we shouldn't forget is that these free and reduced lunch applications are very important in order to establish what the poverty rate is in our towns. And it has a major effect on school funding. In our last round of budgeting, a lower than it should have been count on free and reduced for lunches really impacted our tax rate. And that we need to fix that between now and the next round. This is a great opportunity.
Absolutely. And we were 34%, which was pretty low because we've been in the 50s in my tenure. And I know right now that Heartland has the highest poverty rate of the 4 schools. And I want to say it's 54%, David. And we're 34, which baffles me because we've always been at the top.
This is not something we aspire to, but we need every family. Every family who would qualify should apply. It's gonna help our town.
Yep. Any other questions for Jim or Craig?
I have one. Jim, Sean.
Yes, sir.
The Wethersfield board is in receipt of a set of letters from our 4th grade teacher, Jessica Wilmot, who did a unit on sustainability with her 4th grade class. Have you received their recommendations on cleaning products?
I have not.
Okay, then I'll make sure that I forward these to you electronically.
Awesome.
I'll read you one letter from a 4th grade student that says, and this is we have several letters and I'll send them all to you, but I want to make sure we get on board here. Dear Wethersfield School Board, I think we should start using different cleaners in our school. The wipes we use are wasteful because you use them once and throw them away. The chemicals can also irritate your skin. Every time you run out of the wipes, you throw away the container, and that is bad for our environment. The cleaners that we're making in class are not expensive. Making them is fun, and it is educational to make them because we're measuring and learning about the ingredients. And that was expressed by a number of students.
Nice.
That we might go to. And I know it comes at an awkward time in terms of needing cleaners that are really powerful, but there is this strong effort by our 4th graders that I want to honor, that we should go to more environmentally friendly cleaners. And I'm happy to forward those messages to you.
That would be nice. Thank you.
Thank you for
Please
considering.
do.
Yeah, good for you guys too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll make sure that we get those to you, Jim.
Okay. That would be great. I guess this isn't the time to get into that, but I guess that's awesome. Anytime the student bodies get involved, it's great. It's nothing but a positive. But I got to remind everybody that everything that we use has to basically be green and be approved by the state of Vermont. So that we can't really use, when any students are around, we can't really use anything harsh anyway, but that doesn't mean we can't get better. I'm not saying that.
What? Yeah, and I was going to say it might be nice too when school's back in session, if we get back in session.
When?
When we get back in session. Sorry, Sean. We could, we could maybe, Jim, might be fun for you to have you go visit that 4th grade class. That would be good. You see Jim with those 4th grade. Has anybody seen that movie Kindergarten Cop?
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome. I'd love to.
It's got potential. I'll go with you, Jim. But I could see you talking to them about the products you use now. And, some of the stuff they've suggested. That would be great.
And another thing to consider too, depending on the compost stipulations, is that if you have a certain spray cleaner and you use paper towels, that you can put those in the compost, whereas a wipe, usually you cannot.
Yeah, good point.
Correct. That's a great point. Correct. That's correct.
Anything else for these two boys? They're going to be up early tomorrow.
I'll just
thank you both.
Thanks for both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, we'll
Good
see you in the
night.
morning. Thanks. Yep, bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is an athletic update to answer questions raised at town meeting. I am not in possession of the list of questions, but I do know that Jess Kishko, our athletic director, and Alicia Crane, our assistant athletic director, have waited patiently for this part of the meeting. So I guess I would turn it over to them first. And are you in possession of said questions?
Hi, everyone. It's interesting hearing about it all. I get all the emails, so it's nice to kind of keep in touch and see what everybody's doing. I applaud everybody's efforts. It's just incredible how wonderful our school system is. I've received a few lists of questions, but I didn't know if there was a specific list of questions or if the board had specific questions directly for me.
Yeah, I know that Gene, you had taken notes at town meeting. Some of those questions wouldn't be obviously appropriate. I know, like, for example, one of those questions that came up at town meeting was, why are we paying the athletic director? This person was reminiscing about the days when we paid the athletic director $300 a year. And I don't think that would be appropriate for Jessica to answer those questions. But there were some other questions around organization and which sports we have, and are we offering the right sports? And I don't know, Gene, do you other than the do you have them
in front of me? Yes, they went to Jessica and Alicia on March 6th at 2:39, and there were 5 questions that were posed as a result of town meeting. And then at our subsequent board meeting, Jessica Brown came and spoke a little bit about why she had asked some of those questions. Okay. So I'm open to reading the 5 questions. We could, I don't know how you want to do it.
Whatever is easier, is easier. I have the list of questions as well.
Yeah. So other than the money question, which is really a board question, I think, is Jessica still on the line?
Jessica Brown? Yeah.
Okay, good. Jessica is here.
Yeah, here.
So Gene, do you want to just read the 5 questions and then?
Yes, I'd be happy to do it. Question number 1, and we're not going to stop to answer. I'm just going to go down and then Jessica can respond. Parents do not want to pay a fee for the online sports engine. What can be done? Question 2, parents don't want to pay a fee whether they get a new shirt or not. 3, the board remembers you talking about growing the program and wondered if you did the things you talked about, like having speakers come in or offering a hockey trip to get folks excited about athletics. 4, paras are paid less than $15,000 to work 175 days, 7.5 hours a day. Some felt that the AD and assistant AD salary was more than what full-time paras make. Maybe an overview of all your time and commitment during the April 14th meeting could answer their concerns. The parent that asked the most questions was at town meeting and at the board meeting, and the same questions were raised. Tournaments. Some kids played in 1 tournament, while other kids played up to 3. Parents asked why the discrepancy.
Yeah. So for the first question, the fee for Sports Engine is $1.57 per athlete, and you get a discount if you sign up more than 1 athlete at a time. Since it was our first year running Sports Engine, I had no idea how it was going to be run. So I put that burden on the families. My intent for the future is to pay and cover that cost. It's a credit card processing fee. Most companies use it. They just don't advertise that they use it. So it is a credit card processing fee, and that's it. We do pay for Sports Engine, so that's the only thing. Parents don't want to pay a fee at all. It's been my understanding that the past 20 plus years, there's been a fee for athletics at Wethersfield. We are run a little bit differently than area schools, as you know, as we are an athletic department as well as rec center. I did a little bit of research and information actually on what other rec programs do cost for their services, for kind of what they present. So I just kind of wanted to show that quickly. I don't know if am I presenting yet?
Yeah,
I'm familiar with
you're getting there.
yeah. Okay, I'm familiar with Zoom, but I don't know if you can read this. I can try to zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you go to that tab or go to that screen on your computer, it'll pop up.
How about now?
Hold on, I think.
If you go down to the very low, yep, you got it.
Yeah, I can zoom in a bit. So I asked, I'm now thankfully friends with a lot of the area rec directors, and I've asked them what their fees were per sport, per athlete. So these are all per sport, per athlete. And this is what they're charging for fees. So, I mean, Heartland, which we've talked about already tonight, $50 per student, per athlete, per sport. So that's $50 if they want to play soccer, $50 if they want to play basketball, $50 if they want to play softball. And these are just the other local areas that are right around us, and our $10 fee, and with what we provide, and with having to supplement with what we're approved with our budget, I don't think is too bad. Now with doing this research, I most likely will reevaluate our fees for the future. Just because it's the funds, what I'm told is our funds go to an activity fund, and they're not actually directly put back into an athletics fund. So that's something that will be reevaluated in the future and for next year. Growing the program. So my first change that I did was, the most important thing to me was implementing Sports Engine. I think it was the safest option for me to kind of dip my toe in, try to figure out how to streamline our processes of registration, try to keep our families all kind of on the same board. For families who have used it, I've heard great things. They're up to date with cancellations and changes of practices. They have constant contact with coaches. They can share pictures. I haven't really heard anything bad about the Sports Engine. We have sent some teams to Dartmouth events. What I wanted to do, since this is my first year with Wethersfield, is I really wanted to test it out with a team first before I just sent busloads of kids to Dartmouth games or to other area games. So we did send the 5th and 6th grade girls soccer team to a Dartmouth game, and it was phenomenal. And it's something that we will definitely do in the future for other teams and other events. I know that a couple individual coaches took a couple kids to basketball games. So that's something that we definitely will reevaluate. I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew this year. So that was, we didn't start implementing all these new and exciting things right off the bat. I can talk certainly about my time and commitment for my salary, if that's something that still wants to be talked about. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
I don't think that you should have to talk about that. Okay.
Well, I wrote a whole list. A lot of behind the scenes work. Just to kind of touch briefly on it, I spoke with Alicia about it, and it's most families and parents and they see us at games and just kind of observing and watching, but they don't know the behind the scenes. All of the work that is done is all behind the scenes. So no, I'm not necessarily typing on a computer while I'm watching a basketball game, but actually I go home and I make sure that the rec center or the area rec program that we go through knows the scores of our games so that they can update it on the website, and that parents who have concerns, I'm constantly emailing them after games, at playing time, et cetera, So all that is after, as well as coordinating with officials. It's not just coordinating, oh, the game's canceled. Well, when's it rescheduled? And coordinating the rescheduling and coordinating the officials to still show up at the rescheduled game, and coordinating with the parents to let them know when the rescheduled game is and where it is. It's mostly behind the scenes. And that's the, I think, unfortunate part about it, is that everything is done without the visibility. And I believe, oh, the last question was tournaments. Weathersfield I decided to pay for one tournament per team for basketball. We don't do any tournaments for soccer. I said that since I don't know how the budget will pan out, and this was obviously before everything happened, I didn't know how much money we would have in the budget, and I didn't want to overspend based on tournaments. So I paid for one tournament for each team, and it was up to the coach and the athletes to then go from there. So that's why some teams wanted to do 2 or 3. Some teams wanted to just do one tournament. So I left it up to the coach's discretion and the families.
Any other questions from the board?
No, I will confess that I haven't been as involved in athletics. I haven't been to games. I know, but I have been impressed with the level of involvement with, because of course when we come to board meetings and I see all the cars in the parking lot, it always makes me nervous. I think, oh no, what did we do now? And then I go in and no, they're in the gym. They're there to watch the game, which always makes me feel great for 2 reasons. One, that they're not there to come to the board meeting, and 2, that they are there for the games. I'm so happy. So I come at this knowing less and relying on the feedback that we get from parents and what we see when we go to school.
I have a comment, or I guess a question, and this doesn't have to be off the cuff right now, but I think it would help us or the community to have a better understanding of the work that the athletic director and the assistant athletic director do to kind of over time have you look at your time commitment. You know, what does it take to, you have certain numbers of meetings with all of the different rec director committees, you have scheduling time, officiating a time, budgeting time, like all of these different tasks that you do. So it's not like a minute by minute account what I want, but it's just an idea, because I think that that will help people understand that a $300 a year salary from 1972 is no longer applicable. And I don't necessarily know that it means that it will justify the current salary, but I think it'll just put things into context for people about the complexity, about the time commitment, and even timing of the time commitment too. I think one of the tricky things with part-time work for anyone is that you need to do it alongside another job, right? And so I think that that's something that would be informative for people to know, right? Like a part-time job as a bartender, maybe, which is only from 9 p.m. to midnight on weekends, is different than a part-time job that requires people to be available during business hours and during hours that are directly after school. It really impacts how people can apply for and perform these jobs in a competent way. So I think that all of those pieces would just help us inform the community and ourselves about what it takes to accomplish these tasks.
Yeah, and I've often thought about I've gone even to the point of how to track when I've been like responding to parents and timing for that. And I thankfully am very fortunate to have another career that allows me to check emails while I am doing it. So I am balancing both. And I think that this is not an hourly role. And I would have a really hard time putting hours on it, because how do you track an email response? How do you track checking an email at 10 a.m., responding to it at 10:20 a.m., and then putting it to bed until you check your email again at 12? That's why I think it's important that this is a salaried position, not an hourly position. And it's typically throughout the day responding to emails and inquiries and things like that. But it's also the typical time for basketball, at least it was 4 times a week, 5:30 to 8:30 at night. That's the timing that you're there 4 times a week, for months on end. And I think that that's another thing, is that the parents don't see that I go home and then I do more work on top of just attending those games. I have put together an actual, and I think, if don't quote me wrong, is a budget for the first time. There has never been, or from what I'm aware of, a breakdown of what is spent and where the money is going. I can kind of present, let me see. I can present now a little bit. I've been keeping track as I've been going, so that to not lose sight of the little things. Can everybody see that?
Yeah. If you have a Chromebook, you can expand that screen too if you want to.
Yeah, I'm on actually dual monitors, so it's a little helpful. But so our soccer actual for officials per game and the coaches, or officials and coaches, is $1,800, and for just the officials and the coaches, and that's where the money's being spent. For cross country, $400, not as much. Basketball actual was $3,500. It's an expensive sport to run. We had 29 home games, and each home game we pay 2 officials $40 a game, and $80 for both of them. The total cost for just our officials, $2,300. That is actual money going out the window that I can't control. So that is, unless we want to do less home games or less teams, that is the number that can be adjusted. As we obviously didn't get to softball, baseball, or track, I didn't know where those numbers would be. I kind of projected 45 home games. I kind of was trying to project what it would be for the spring, as I don't have any actual numbers of what has been used in the past. I also did a transportation budget of what was actually, so this is like average costs, what I thought would be per game. Obviously, we don't have, we only had 7 and 8 basketball. This was the actual cost. Our transportation budget is $3,000. If we were to actually have a girls and boys soccer team, girls and boys basketball team, and girls and boys softball and baseball, our $3,000 budget would not
be enough.
remotely cover this. And I understand that we're going to probably not fill all of our rosters, and we're not going to have full teams for all of these, but I'm just trying to show that $1,000 just for one basketball team is what it costs for us to send that team away. And then this is all I've spent so far this year on our actuals. Like a porta potty, $645 we pay for out of our athletic budget to sit there. Our league fees, med kit supplies I pay for, basketball stat books, line paint is really expensive. And I obviously, as I said, didn't get to the spring sports, but I also didn't buy any basketballs, any softballs, any soccer balls, any actual equipment needed, because I had no idea how much money I would have. So this was kind of a baseline for me to say, okay, next year I have X amount of dollars to spend on brand new soccer balls, brand new baseballs, brand new softballs. But this was just the bare bones of what we've spent with no frills added. Yeah, I think that was pretty much all I've done, but I can definitely, Robin, for the future, try to keep track a little bit more of time, and a little bit more of like how many meetings are actually attended, because we do have a lot of rec meetings that are just a lot of just like talking about rules and what rules changes we want to do, not even necessarily scheduling meetings, which that's another meeting on top of it where we actually sit down and hash out what time's the game at, who are we playing.
Yeah, I think a list of meetings that you attend, a list of tasks that you do, and then a list of things where you're actually physically on site. Like you said, for example, the 4 nights a week, 4 to 8 for basketball, such and such for soccer, such and such for baseball.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have just a quick question for Jean Marie. I probably should know this answer, but looking at that budget, is that budget all, none of that's in the general fund, right? That's all in the activity account? You need to put your mic on, Jean.
Yeah, okay. So, no, there is a budget that's called the athletic budget. And in there you would find what we pay for. There's an equipment line in there, so I'm a little confused why Jessica didn't have that bottom line, because that equipment line is pretty healthy. I don't have that budget in front of me, but I know the breakdown of that budget is their salary, coaches, officials, equipment, transportation, and it seems like there's one more.
And that's all in the general fund.
That is in the general fund, and I do believe that the reason some of the money goes in the activity fund is because, and this is changing, but in the past, BJ cut the check to the officials from the activity fund. So it was actually sports money going in, sports money going out.
Right. Well, and this, Jean Marie, is the actual, so I get $5,000 for supplies. So this is my supplies cost, and this is how much I have remaining. So I have $2,200 remaining to purchase supplies for the remaining of the year. For transportation, this is my budget remaining. I get $3,000 to spend in transportation. This is how much I have remaining for the school year. For my officials fees, I do have that. This is my remaining in budget is $4,900. But as you can see, it would be probably tight with softball, baseball, and track kind of rounding up. I do have the numbers. They're right here.
Yep.
And so your equipment is in your supply budget, basically? That's where you would have taken basketballs had you bought basketball?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't, because I didn't know how quickly everything would be spread out.
Yeah, I get you. Well, you know, the one thing I know, having been here 8 years, and Jean, you've been here a year or two longer than I have, the athletic direct, this has been a constant, right? A constant change and battle, and and to try to keep people consistently in that job and doing that job. I know that's why, to some degree, that salary has crept up from what I think it was 5 and 5 when I got here. Then it went to 10. And then with Jessica, another jump, but it's because, you know, we want to attract good people. We want to keep good people. We want experienced people. And Gene will tell you that just in my 8 years, we've probably been through 4 different athletic directors, and and that's not good for the program. And you do run it all by, I'm not talking about you, Jessica, but the town, that Wethersfield as a school district, you run it all by yourself. That's the bottom line. And that's not the case in Windsor. It's not the case in Heartland. It's not the case in a lot of towns, right? That it's a partnership between the town and the school district. And I know this is not what we want to talk about tonight, but with a new town manager, we might, I know that you've had this conversation many, many times, but it might be something we want to have the conversation again, because I know West Windsor, there's a fee now that they're one school district. There's a fee that they have to pay at Windsor, like you said, Jessica, to play a sport, right? Well, the West Windsor Select Board, right, partnership now with the school district, the Select Board in West Windsor is now going to pay that fee for those kids, so that the town picks up that fee for those kids through town taxes. I'm not saying that that's ever going to happen in Wethersfield. I don't know if it should happen in Wethersfield, but you either have private support and families paying, or the town makes it part of their tax revenue, or they pick up those fees in some other way. But I think that it would be good at some point, once this craziness is over, to maybe talk about that partnership again.
Agreed. Jessica, you've waited patiently, and I appreciate that. Do you have questions you'd like to address?
So I don't. I think it was great to hear that our athletics fee that we've been paying is going to an activity fund, because that was one of the questions I had asked at school board meeting or town meeting as to where that went. I know by doing my research, we are the cheapest to register for schools for sports. So I don't think that it's the fact of the price. I think it is the fact that there were some changes being made that was not necessarily addressed with parents before they were changed. So, we rolled out the sports engine, which I love. It helps. I know when I coached softball, I downloaded an own app and paid a monthly fee for it so my team could have it for the 3-4 softball girls because it's a lifesaver. So I think that's great. I think then I know I heard people saying, well, why are we paying $10 and not $5? So I just think communication maybe a takeaway. But also, one of my suggestions is, can we ask community businesses to sponsor our sports programs? So they could, I know Claremont, you see all of their kids, their K-4 have their soccer shirts and they have all of the sponsors of their, different community businesses on them. So I just don't know if that's another way to possibly think about reducing some of it. I would be one to say I wouldn't mind paying $20 for my kids to play sports. But I think for some of the parents, there's been a lot of change. I mean, I think, Jess, you're my 4th athletic director we've had since my daughter's been playing sports. So I think it's a lot of change for some parents to go through. And I think that's why you're getting a lot of this feedback. And unfortunately, the community that doesn't have kids in school have a hard time approving school budgets. And so athletics is an easy thing to pick on, right? Because first off, they don't understand why it's so high and they don't understand what goes into it. So I think you answered my few questions. I had the question about where our fees go that we pay. Just because I was curious if it went into the supply on top of the $5,000 or if it went into somewhere else. So is that going to change, Jean Marie? Do you know that? Is our fee that we're paying for sports going to go to the athletic direct budget, or is that going to stay in the activity fund for school?
My understanding is we have a new program called eFinance, and that's come from the state of Vermont to schools. And there are a lot of regulatory changes. And I believe one of them is that money, and I'm not sure about this, David, if I'm wrong here, you correct me, but I believe that BJ can no longer pay the coaches and the, I can't think of
officials.
Officials. I don't think she can pay them anymore out of the activity fund, which means if that's true, every dime that comes in for the sports program has to go into the sports account at central office in eFinance. And then it's not as easy. BJ could write a check and then hand it to them. There's a process. BJ has to put in a purchase order. The purchase order has to be approved by several people, like several people in central office, and then the check is cut. So there's more of a time wait than there will be. And that's a new change, and that's nothing that BJ and I can control. That came out of eFinance.
Yeah, and the truth is, it's not just eFinance either, because I was you'll never believe this, but I was a high school basketball official for 18 years in my younger year. And I know that just in the last 5 years, I don't do it anymore, but they've gone through some monumental changes now where they're making referees claim taxes. They're filing W-2s and W-4s. And it used to be we'd walk in, the AD would be standing there, quite frankly, with a wad of cash. And they would just count the cash out. It was a great occupation, paid my oil bill in the winter, but those days are gone. I mean, Jean's right. There's a whole lot of, accountability, and quite frankly, there should be. It's a lot of money you can see in just for a small school in Jessica's budget. It's quite a bit going out to the officials, right? It's a pretty huge expense, and you've got to pay them. I don't know what do you pay your officials, Jessica?
$40 a game.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's what it was. I didn't make any change to that. That's just what it's been in the past, so I kept it the same.
And do you think that's the going rate?
It is. It's usually between 35 and 45.
Yeah. Wow. I mean,
anecdote.
Go ahead.
I haven't been to a lot of games, but I was at the Claremont Rec Center for a birthday party, sort of the last public event before everything shut down. And I was in the dressing room with a referee who was about to go out to a basketball tournament. And I can tell you that guy was girding himself for a day's work. Like David and Jean Marie, you're probably the ones who can identify the most with what the referee goes through.
Oh, yeah.
In that encounter, as I changed into my shorts and the referee basically put his armor on, I gained new appreciation for the work that they do.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah, and
the
they're very hard to come by. So the ones that we do have are super loyal and wonderful. I can't speak more highly of them.
They've been doing it for years. Parents love them.
Really? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really is like it's a network, right? And everybody loves to just come, and yeah, that's great. I also felt like the season, Gene, you said the seasons generally went pretty well this year, right? I mean, we've had some interesting situations in the past with some enthusiastic fans and some relatively aggressive parents, but I think you've worked hard on that, and I think it went better this year.
Much better. We did not have the tumultuous difficulties this year that we had other years.
Yeah, that's helpful, and it's helpful when Jessica is there too, because I think that makes a big difference. And I know you go to some of the games too, Gene. So, that helps a lot. It's a small school, but you're doing it all by yourself. That's the bottom line. And you're the only school that I know of in this area that does it all by yourself. So I think you do a good job with it.
Well, I wouldn't be able to do it without Alicia, that's for sure.
Yeah, Alicia's a big help.
Hey, Alicia.
Absolutely.
Just one more question I had for you. Is there any talk of doing like an athletic committee or organizing a committee? I feel like some of that could alleviate some burden off of you if you had parents going and prepping the field and cleaning up and getting ready. I mean, I know we would be totally for it. I think there's a lot of parents that would be willing to help to alleviate some of that burden from you and or Alicia.
Yeah, actually, Alicia and I have talked about it a little bit. Instead of a committee, we've had a couple parents approach us about trying to create a booster club, so then we could eliminate, hopefully, the fee entirely, and have those booster parents help with lining the fields and getting the fields ready and things like that. So that has been discussed. It's just, as I said earlier, I don't want to bite off more than I can chew right now. With wanting to see how my first year went, with potential for a second year, and then kind of take it from there. But that's definitely something we're thinking about.
Great.
Hey, Alicia, do you have anything you'd like to add, Alicia?
I think Jess really covered most of it. I mean, I think this year has definitely gone a lot smoother than years that I've been a part of in the past, including with past athletic directors. I mean, it seems pretty smooth, and Jess handles a lot of situations really well. I think her communication is great, and I really, really love Sports Engine. I can't talk enough about that. I feel like that really has boosted a lot of communication between coaches and athletes and parents. They can get any information they need from there, including emergency information. I find that really helpful, especially for coaches that may need that within minutes. It just really helps a lot.
We had that situation at school, and it was an opposing team, thankfully, and they didn't have that contact information right at their fingers where we would have. And that's where I instantly thought it was worth every penny, was that we would be able to pull it up on our phone instead of trying to figure out who knows this parent's number and how can we get a hold of them. And that was a big, Alicia, you're right on the emergency contact information, because you can't check out of the app without entering that. And so that's the most important part for me.
Mm-hmm.
Anything further for Jessica or Alicia from the board or members of the public? Thank you for being here. It's been known to this board that this is a hot point, athletics, and I'm sure you know much better than I do about everything that goes into that. But it's rightfully a hot point because the things that happen on the field of play are so important in the growth of our children. And you know that parents bring a lot of hopes and concerns to that. And of course, their school pride is on the line. There's so much that goes into it. And I guess in our current situation where there's no spring training, there's no baseball, I'm freaking out because there's no Red Sox. And we're all kind of reminded of this role that sports play. But from the standpoint of our school board and the work that you do, it's become, I think, this board has encountered the pressures that are brought to bear on this, and David has noted, and I think it's worth reemphasizing, that Weathersfield is an unusual situation where we have a small student body in a K-8 school, and our town does not have a recreation department. And so the burden of doing the sports for K through 8 falls on our little school, of trying to make teams and meet everybody's expectations. And it's a unique situation. I'm sure the conversation will go on, but I appreciate what you two have done to help us this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And stay tuned to our Facebook page. We are posting some videos and tips and tricks for student athletes. Since there is no programs right now, I've tried to find as many helpful videos on YouTube and trying to post some things even for parents to kind of get out there and help your kid throw the ball around a little bit, which is pretty fun. But doing the best we can from what we have.
Thank you.
I'm teaching my kids to fish. It's not helping them throw a ball.
Hey, it might. It's okay.
Yeah.
Same range of motion. Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jess. Thanks, board. Thanks, everybody.
You guys can cut out. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Alicia and Jess.
Yeah.
And coaches. Our next item is a discussion of Hicks-Nichols spring grants. And the board was presented at our last meeting with the spring grants. Typically, we would have had a chance to review those in advance and to discuss that with the Hicks-Nichols committee about what the purpose of the grants was. It kind of came down in an unusual way for us at our last meeting because we didn't know in advance that we were going to be asked to approve the grants. And of course, at the time that we received them, the board hadn't even reorganized. And so it was hard for us to address the presentation of those grants in advance. So we didn't know who was the board chair, who was the vice chair. We didn't really know anything. And we certainly didn't have a chance to review those grants in the way that the bylaws usually would require. And we did approve the grants for spring 2020. But over in the 6 weeks since then, I've been in contact with the members of the board and also with the chair of the Hicks-Nichols committee to see if we could reconsider those spring grants and also do something that this board has been asking for a couple of years, which is to review the practices of that committee and see if we could open up that committee and have better communication with the board. That started out a couple of years ago as a request to the Hicks-Nichols committee that we could learn more about where the money came from, who we should be thanking for it, and how people get on that committee, and basically what the money is for. I think I'm not telling any secrets to point out that the board got no response from that committee over the course of a couple years. And I've provided this board, as I provided previous boards and the entire Hicks-Nichols committee and administration, with the results of research that I did in August and September of last year. And I know that I've provided those documents to you online, and I will just draw your attention to the cover letter that I provided in last September, and I'll read it, the last part of it, to you. In advance of the spring 2020 round of Hicks-Nichols grants applications, may the board and committee review these documents, pursue further research, and meet together to discuss how these grants might be administered in the future. That did not happen, and instead what we got were a slate of grant. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. What we received as a board were a slate of grant requests that we were told had to be acted on immediately for purposes of time. As it turns out, of course, because of the suspension of school, the timeliness factor has gone away somewhat. And so I wanted to open this conversation to see if we could redirect, not only to address the questions that you see highlighted in the presentation, but also to consider redirecting the funds that have been allocated for this year. And the reason why I would make that request, which is unusual, is that what I learned in my research about the fund is that, of course, this is a fund, and you can see from the documents that I've provided that it is by far the largest public fund in Wethersfield. As of fiscal year 2018, which was the most recent information I had, the fund was valued at in excess of $930,000, which is more than all the other public funds combined. But that by the bylaws of that committee, and by the original instructions for the use of that fund, it's the income of the fund that's available for use as the school board may direct. It says said income to be used as the school board of said town of Wethersfield may direct for public school purpose only. The trick there, of course, is that all you have to work with every year is the income off of that fund. And we've seen that the fund has grown. In 1988, it had $327,000 in it. And so I don't know what kind of a fund it's in, probably an index fund. That was one of the things we wanted to find out from the committee. And it's that information just has not been shared with us. But from what I understand, that fund that money is in an index fund. And as the market goes up, of course, the earnings from it also go up. And over these last 10 years has been a time in which the market has gone up, and the amount of money available for grants has also increased. During my time on the board, this board has consistently supported the application originally made by our kindergarten teachers, Laura Powers and Leanna Robinson. Their application has been to build an outdoor classroom. They made an application, I believe, in 2016 that was rejected by the Hicks-Nichols committee, and a subsequent application was then made by Susan Hindinger, who at that time was just an interested citizen, who later became a member of the board. And at that time, the requested amount was only funded about a quarter of what was requested, and putting a burden of fundraising the additional amount on our kindergarten teachers, who I think the board felt had enough to do. It brings us to the current situation. in which for 4 years, something that the board has been supporting has not been funded. And we now face a situation in which, due to market conditions, that fund may not have any income this year, and it may not have any income next year. We really don't know. So to recap and end this rant, we have two things. One is that the board has made repeated attempts over several years to meet with the committee and get further information and input. That has not been forthcoming, and I will point out that the chair of that committee was advised and invited to be with us tonight, and I was informed that the chair of that committee felt that it wasn't possible to join in a meeting as we are doing now, and that they'd like to put it off until later. And so, as board members know, the members of that committee that serves at the pleasure of this board have declined to participate in tonight's meeting. And that brings us to where we are now, which I find to be a situation not satisfactory. And I'm wondering what the rest of the board feels about it.
I have a couple of questions to add. They're kind of just detailed versions, maybe, or sub details of what you've already said, Sean. So one of them, I saw your notes and I saw that original blurb that said what the intent of the fund was. It seems like there's been more details added since then in terms of like the scope of the type of projects that can be covered. So I'm wondering where that language came from, if it's in like some sort of charter document or some original kind of said purpose. So I'd like to see more than just that one sentence that said, said school board of said town. Another detail, which you just referred to in terms of the availability of the money right now that exists and the grants that were discussed at the last meeting, is did that money already get taken out? And therefore, is it in a separate account now? And what is the general schedule for that, right? Like when there's a new round of grants approaching, does the income get taken out then? And then they say, all right, we have $20,000 available. And where does it sit in that meantime? So those are the kind of questions that I can think of for now.
Yes, those were questions we've been hoping to hear about for the last couple of years.
I can answer one of those questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Okay. The money sits in the same account until it's actually used. And then BJ, we don't know the funds. It's something that Ed controls in the office. So when we get something, Ed gives us something that tells us how much money is in there and what the interest was that we got for the year. We only get a certain interest off that money. We don't get the whole sum. Like we might get like maybe $13,000, $16,000 a year and that's it.
How often Kelly, how often do you award grants?
Twice a year, in the fall and the spring.
Okay.
I don't know a lot of this other information. I just know that when I started on the Hicks-Nichols committee back when my son was in first grade, he's now a junior in college, that we had forms that were handed to us from Ginger Winberg that was made up by the group that handles that account from the town. There was rules and regulations set up by them. That was not set up by us.
Kelly, who's the signatory on the account? Who can actually sign checks, sign money in and out? Do you know?
It comes from Ed. I think Ed is the one that. I don't know who actually signs the checks. That I don't know.
I've asked him that before. I don't remember the answer, but it's yeah. Okay.
I don't know that part of it. That's something that I just don't know. I'm just a person who sits there with the rest of the crew, and we sit there and we go over the bylaws. We look at each application and we decide. Each person has their say, and then they vote on it. That's just the way it's always been.
So Kelly, those rules that Robin was speaking about, are you saying those are rules that, were there 20
They were handed
years?
to me back, like I said, back when Zach was in first grade.
They were handed to you.
Well, everyone gets a copy of them when you're sitting there going over the bylaws. When you're making a decision, you kind of check the boxes to make sure that they meet certain criteria. And I believe the school board got a copy of that some time ago, because I think we made sure they all got a copy of the originals paperwork.
Yeah, I remember that. My question is, so where did that come from originally?
Someone from the town did it when the trust was originally set up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do we know are there members of the family still alive?
There's only one person that I know of, and I don't think they really know about the trust itself. But that's something that I think Gloria would be the only. Gloria knows part of the people that originally set some of it up. So
yeah,
she's been here forever, so she knows it all. So
yeah, the history. She would have the history. I mean, I certainly, the place where I was, when I saw the spreadsheet that had the actual balance in the account. I mean, it did.
It shocked us too. It's like, well, how come we don't get all that money?
It sprung me pretty good. That's a pretty good chunk of money sitting there. And thank God to that Hicks Nichols family. I mean, or however that got originated, but that's quite a gift to the school. I think the conversations I've had with Sean in the past, though, I mean, clearly the Hicks Nichols committee is a committee of the school board. I mean, you have the right to establish that, to, establish rules for membership on that committee. It's a standing committee of the board. And I think that it's probably good to get answers to this. It's a lot of money floating around out there. Ed could probably, Ed won't know the history like Gloria would know, but he certainly would know, how the money works, at the bank, and who has signatory rights to it and who can access it. And I'm sure he gets statements, which is how he knows how much interest was generated. He'll get a statement at the end of the year, so he knows that.
I think they give him money and they put it into an account or something.
Yeah, that's
they actually send him a check.
Yeah, he would know that.
And I was under the assumption that we invited Sean to the last meeting, but something had come up and he couldn't show.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I guess. Yeah, I guess it probably is worth the board discussion around, how you want to move forward with this and what other kinds of information you need. I mean, I know you did a lot of research on it, Sean, and I see those documents, but I don't know the best way to proceed at this point in terms of. I know it's frustrating because there have been a couple of projects. I know Jean Marie's been frustrated a couple of times because she's put out some proposals and they've gotten kiboshed. And I'm not saying that's intentional or that's anybody's fault. It's just that, if you go back historically over the last few years, it does seem like a lot of that money goes to certain event and a certain category and not another category. And I don't know what that means or I don't think it's intentional, but that's certainly the way it's been going, and it's a fair amount of money.
I don't know what to tell you. I just know how things were voted on, so.
Right.
Okay.
I'm one person of 8.
I'm specifically identifying 2 issues here. One is that because the income of the fund may not, and probably by our best guess, will not be what it has been. And that fluctuates depending on the market. And the good times in the market have been great over the last 10 years. We can anticipate that may be coming to an end. And if there were ever an opportunity for us to meet the long-standing request of this board to support that outdoor classroom, It
But
strikes me
that's a
that this is
building. That's not an event. That's not a, how do I want to say it? We sponsor, we give them money because we believe in the program, but we don't believe that Hicks Nichols Fund was set up to build an actual building. That's an actual structure. We don't believe that that's what Hicks Nichols intended that money for. That's
I
not
don't
what
think
it's.
that's bylaw, Kelly.
That's in our bylaws. If you have a copy of our bylaws,
Yes,
it doesn't.
I do. I have it right in front of me, Kelly.
Yeah.
I don't see
believe-
anything about not building a building.
Well, that's just what everyone voted on. So
I understand that. And that brings me to the second aspect. The first aspect being that the board has supported this outdoor classroom for 4 years and we've been stoned out every time. The second aspect is related, which is that a committee that serves at the pleasure of the board has been totally unresponsive to the board. And I think it's time to fix that.
well, that's not me. So I'm not the person who's in head of us.
Great. Well, the chair of the board has declined to meet with us tonight. The chair of the committee, rather.
Yeah. I don't think that we were actually really given a bottom figure on what it was going to cost to even build the structure either. We got 3 quotes, and that's all we got on it.
Where did those quotes come from, Sean? Did those come from?
They came from Laura and Leanna.
I know a fair amount about that, but I guess I would call upon Laura or Leanna to elucidate where the quotes came from.
Yeah, I could answer that. I had to get, I got 3 quotes. I got 2 from local construction companies, and then also a quote from Nick Zanstra, who did the compost bin. He built the compost bin. And so I got 3 quotes from them. They were pretty detailed as far as what the materials, the labor, everything was going to cost. I even factored in like permitting and that kind of stuff at the request of Hicks Nichols. So we had a pretty it was like $15,000 was the lowest quote that we got. But it was a pretty detailed quote and bottom line figure that this is how much it would cost to build the structure in its entirety. And Nick Zanstra was the lowest bid, and he even factored in like a little extra in case there were overages. So it could have come in a lot less than that, but he kind of wanted to make sure that it wasn't that we wouldn't have to find more funding down the road.
Where was the structure going to go?
We had a couple different ideas. We kind of wanted it to go over by the greenhouse, and Jim Taft and Brian also felt that was the best place for it because of the location, and it would, the wood area over there, it would work really well. But the Hicks Nichols felt that it should be more centrally located for other families to use. So we also put in a proposal for the structure to be closer to the soccer field. But the final thought was that it would be in the back field, kind of where the Gaga pit and the red shed is. There's like an area where they were going to kind of clear out the land and put the outdoor pavilion in the woods in that area. So that was kind of the agreed upon. We had in the final proposal, we had 3 different locations that we were kind of like proposing to get the push to get it approved. And that was the one that Hicks, and we said we would put it wherever it could be approved. And that was the one that Hicks Nichols felt they were most comfortable approving for.
So, Kelly, what was the 3? I know there were 2 or 3 projects approved in the spring. Do you remember what those were, or Leanna? What got approved at the last?
I honestly don't remember. I know that some of it probably didn't happen because the school closed down.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. So
So
again,
I don't remember what they were. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't remember.
I know there was, Sean, was that,
Okay.
was this last batch of approvals? Did that
Yes.
include those cross-country skis?
Oh,
yeah,
probably yes.
the largest amount was $10,000 for cross-country skis. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So again, I sense the frustration certainly in the board chair. I think it's probably been shared by some. Kelly, it's not your fault or Leanna's fault or nobody. You're one member of a committee, but I just want to remind the board that this is a standing committee of the board. So if you're not happy with, members of that committee or somebody who's not coming to your meeting to discuss the situation, you have the right as a board to either disband and reappoint or I don't know how long they serve. Is it 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Is that in the bylaws, Kelly?
No.
Okay.
It just requires certain people to be on the committee.
Okay. Certain group like
I have
like
that
the
information.
principal, one member of the board,
okay.
Teachers,
Yeah.
people
So
of the
Sean,
public.
okay.
Well, I
Sean, you-
think the communication hasn't been great because actually when Sean brought up all that history, it said that the principal should be on Hicks Nichols. And I'd never heard that before, and I'd never been invited until Sean raised it. And so I did get invited. And I was at the last meeting, and I do recall that we approved some things for the guidance counselor for kids. I want to say wiggle cushions. We were going to consult with the OT before those were ordered. And there were skis for, I want to say for the phys ed program. But I can't really remember anything beyond those. Sean, do you have that in front of you?
No, but I know that it was there were two smaller grants, one of which was for Vermont. I asked Kelly when we received these whether it was timely and we had to approve it on March 4th, since we hadn't had chance to consider it. Kelly said yes, because the Vermont State Orchestra or Vermont Symphony Orchestra was scheduled for April. That was an $800 grant. There was another one for a small amount, and there was $10,000 for cross-country skis for the phys ed program.
That is correct. You've just jogged my memory. I wrote the grant for the Vermont Symphony. It was called Fiddlesticks. They were fiddlers coming in. And in order for me to sign a contract, they had to have payment on the day they were coming. And it was in April. I think it might have passed already. It was sometime in April. So I did ask Hicks Nichols if they would meet early on, or I would have had to give up that opportunity. First, I put it out to faculty, and they said, absolutely. That was so well received last year when we had the symphony come in. So that was me. You're jogging my memory. I did write to Hicks Nichols. I asked them if they could meet earlier than usual so that I could get, because this bargain was given to me. The turnaround time was like the minute I got it, and they gave me so many days to respond. And then I talked to Hicks Nichols. So I think I might have been the reason. Kelly, does that sound familiar?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
But I
totally forgot it until Sean brought it up. But I think I'm the reason that they were in a hurry so we could sign a contract with the VSO.
So Kelly, you were at the meeting where those decisions were made. I don't want to put you on the spot, and Jean, maybe you were there as well. I think one of the elephants in the room, and maybe you can answer this, Kelly, when that $10,000 was allocated or brought up or proposed at the committee level to buy those skis for the PE program, Laura Berry is the chair of that committee. She's also the PE teacher. Did she excuse herself from that conversation and that vote? Okay. Okay. I know she's got a lot of integrity, and I know she
And
would do that.
She said that if it didn't pass, that she could probably find the money somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
Because I know there has been a fair amount. I think if we go back 2 or 3 years, I know she's had a couple of residencies. I don't know whether Hicks Nichols helped buy that. Did they help buy that other piece of gym equipment?
Yes, and that was, as I recall, BJ wrote that grant. I think I helped her, and I want to say it was $55,000. Am I right, Kelly?
I honestly don't remember.
Did that come out of Hicks Nichols?
Yes.
Or part of it? Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, and again, I'm not trying to start.
We paid for the chips. Didn't we pay for the rubber tired chips? And
yeah, we didn't pay for the whole thing.
Yeah. But so we had some of our local funds, but the majority, I want to say the whole project cost about, I'm guessing, $65,000, and about 55 of it came out of Hicks Nichols. But you guys would have record of that.
I don't have that though.
Somebody
Laura has. I don't have that.
So again, I don't have the bylaws in front of me, Sean. You do, and I don't think we have to study those bylaws now. But I think part of the elephant in the room right now is that we've had this proposal on the table, which actually is more of an outdoor education, science-based, back to nature, Forest Friday type of project that would have served a lot of kids. We've got, 2 of our 4 buildings have an outdoor classroom right now. I know you've had that on the table, and it seems like, and again, not a criticism, but Kelly, certainly you're one of 8 members, but it seems like a lot of money has gone into, PE program, PE equipment, PE activities, and even when you think about it, and Sean, this is no slight because it's one of the best things we've ever brought to that school. But when your wife does her piece, it's a beautiful piece. But I think that also is done kind of through the PE classes. I don't know if that's true or not. Is that how that works?
No, we did the drummer, which was
that was PE.
That was PE, and Ashley went through the music.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing at least from the board, is this proposal's been on the table for a while, and it seems like, I mean, again, I don't have the bylaws in front of me, but it seems like a great use of Hicks Nichols money, and maybe COVID-19. I mean, I can't tell you what to do, but we haven't spent any of that money yet based on what's gone on. We're not going to have the symphony come. We're not going to, I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of time before winter to talk about skis. I'm not saying the board can make this decision, but maybe it's time to go back and revisit this long-standing request that's been on the table for this outdoor classroom.
I think it's fair for the board to ask to have appropriate time to assess the set of grants that was on the table at the March 4th meeting. So part of this is that it just felt that it was rushed and that there was not adequate time to consider and ask questions. So I think it's fair for the board to ask for that fair time. That could be separate, or it could be connected to the board also asking for a reassessment of the outdoor classroom as a long-standing request of the fund to give it kind of a fair assessment. One other point I will put out there, just in terms of the cross-country ski program, is that Colin and I provide a cross-country ski program for the school. We have about 30 kids participate in it every year. Of course, this year wasn't great in terms of the snow. So that is something that's available. It's free for everyone to use. So I just thought that I would put that out there as something that kind of aligns with the PE program and providing that kind of sport to kids.
Do you provide the equipment, Robin?
Yes. We provide skis, boots, poles, pants, and jacket to everybody.
Okay.
It's owned by the ski club, and so then kids grow, of course, they return it, and then we fix it up and cycle it on to the next year.
Robin, not to put you on the spot, but just for reference, Do you have a sense of what it cost you to equip the program?
I'd have to think about that in terms of like the number of skis, boots, and poles that we have, and kind of how much we've spent on it every year. Just kind of roughly, I'd say less than $4,000 for skis, boots, and poles, and we probably have 45 pairs of everything. That's just really rough, kind of like from memory, not going through our accounts.
Well, it also sounds like from what Kelly said, and Jean, you were at the meeting, that, you know, Laura recused herself. She said she could do it another way if we couldn't do it. I mean, I'm hearing a strong call from the board to review this and to look at those requests now with more time and distance, literally more distance, and to make some decisions going forward. I don't know if it might also be a chance to, I know this is not one of my favorite activities, but for all of us to look at those bylaws again, see what those conditions are, look at that membership. It's been the same people on that committee, other than Jean, who just recently got invited, but it's been the same members on that committee, dedicated to that committee for a long time. It's changed some, but that's a commitment they tend to make. Might be time to revisit a little of that too.
I think Sean's request is reasonable. What I'm hearing him say tonight is that, and I realize now that it was me that rushed it, and it was so I could get the VSO under contract. But I think what I'm hearing him say is that we have a disconnect, that there really needs to be better communication between Hicks Nichols and the board, and that's not happened. And it sounds like Sean has made that request and it's still not happened. I don't think there's any reason to spend any money. And by the way, I came in at the tail end of that meeting because I had an IEP meeting, but I do remember Laura recusing herself. And to be honest, I don't know how many things were approved that night, because I just came in on the tail end they were talking about the guidance counselor getting things, and they were going to talk with Jane Duffy about it, and the VSO and the keys. So I think the point is, from my perspective, I don't think any money's been spent. And even if we were planning to do it, there's plenty of time. It's really about meeting with the committee.
What member of the school board is currently on the committee? You said a member of the school board should be on the committee?
Kristen Brusso was appointed at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Jackie Antonovich has been a member of that committee for years.
Right. Yeah.
So, Kristen, are you going to continue to serve on that committee?
Yeah. The last meeting, that it was at like 3:00 or something, so I couldn't make it, but I did talk to Kelly about next time.
There's always next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so then if we have a member on the committee, couldn't we get a report from that member every month or so or something about what's being talked about?
Usually that person from the board will also recommend the ones that we approve, because usually that person is involved in it deeply. Because I know that Jim Wimberg was on the committee and he used to speak up for it as well. So, because sometimes Laura couldn't be there because that was her physical therapy night. So Jim would speak and he'd say what was approved and why they were approved. And that's usually why we include a board member in the Hicks Nichols, so that way they have an idea.
Yeah, I think one of the problems this time, maybe nobody's fault, but it was just that everybody arrived for an organizational meeting or whatever we were doing, and there were these proposals, and I think it did feel rushed, and everybody felt that. Robert's Rules of Order says that, I assume, did those proposals pass 5-0 or 4-0? At that point, we might have. Do you remember if everybody voted yes?
Everyone approved it.
I wasn't there, so I was an abstain or a
No,
non-attendee.
Robin was the only one wasn't there, but everyone else voted yes.
Okay, so anybody who
And
voted
that's the way
yes,
we've always done it in the past.
right? So
We've never let you guys look at the forms in advance.
no, but I think that might be but you're saying that probably. I'm hearing Sean say that would be nice to be able to get.
Yeah, well, I understand.
Yep, that makes sense. But I'm trying to get to a procedural point here. What we could do is anybody who voted yes could now make a motion to reconsider those proposals, and that could be seconded. And that doesn't mean they're going to be rescinded or whatever, but it would just mean that at a subsequent board meeting, we could reconsider those proposals or any other proposal that might be brought before the board. That's a way to kind of, Gene said, none of that money's been spent. I don't think the skis have been ordered. Does anybody know, Gene, do you know whether those skis were ordered?
You're muted.
Is Gene muted?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to think when the Hicks-Nichols meeting was. I want to say it was the day before the board meeting. So it was early March. I do not think any of that stuff has been ordered. I don't. And I can send a quick email to Laura, who's chairman of the committee, and BJ. But and I can't even tell you what was approved that night, actually, because I was at an IEP meeting and came in on the tail end. But so I'll ask that question. But I'm telling you, I don't believe, because on March 16th was our last day with kids. The world kind of changed for us. So I honestly believe nothing has been spent. And I don't think this is insurmountable. I think we need to be better communicators. That's all.
Yeah. Plus the other thing too is I think that those prices that Leanne has there, I know the other thing too is that with that quote, and I don't know whether Jim looked at that quote, but I know that Jim and his guys, I'm not saying this should happen, but I know they built the one at Windsor and it came out really nice. That's just another piece there. But if we want some reconsideration, if we felt rushed, we now have a new board member. Robin is, well, not a new board member, but she wasn't there that night. There's a little bit of consternation around all of this. There could be a motion to reconsider, and then we could reconsider that. Whether or not Hicks-Nichols will have a chance to get together before the next meeting, it almost doesn't matter. You've got the proposals on the table. You've actually got some outline of additional proposals. I don't know how that would work, but we could. That's one way to back this up if you want to back it up. Or reverse it, I guess is a better word.
Okay. Is there such a motion?
And it can be anybody but Robin can make that motion. And actually, Leanna's not here, so I mean, not Leanna. Mark's not here. So who do we have here? We have Robin, we have Kristen, we have Sean. Oh, and Anne Marie. Correct. And Anne Marie. Got it.
Yeah. So the motion that we're looking for is to reconsider
the Hicks-Nichols. The Hicks-Nichols authorization for spring 2020.
Do we have to put like a date on it? Like say reconsider at our next meeting, or?
That would be fine to do that too, to reconsider at our next board meeting.
Okay, I'll make that that motion then. I move to reconsider the approval of the Hicks-Nichols grants at last month's school board meeting, and so that we can reconsider them until next month's school board meeting.
Second.
So Kelly, I think, oops, sorry.
Yeah, it's been made and seconded, and now the floor is open for discussion. Please go ahead, Jane Marie.
Thank you. Kelly, do you recall, were you at the whole meeting?
I was at a good share of it, but I had to get back to work, so.
Okay. I think it was the day before the board meeting. You recall how many programs were approved?
I don't remember. That I honestly don't remember.
So I think it would behoove Laura, Laura Berry, who is chairman, to bring all of those in written form. So the board, that's what Sean's asking. He just wants to see what was approved and looking at, as the board has stated tonight, the priority for the pavilion. So it's really a discussion, but we should have good information at the next meeting.
And Gene, I think given the reconsideration, I think, Gene, you could reach out to Laura and you could say that to Laura, and you could also say that there is a strong feeling among multiple board members that there'd be some reconsideration by the Hicks-Nichols committee around this outdoor classroom, versus some of those proposals that were presented back on March 4th. I think you could tell Laura that. Whether she can respond to that or reach out to that, you want to copy me on that, I think we could guide her through that process, because it seems like there's a lot of strong feelings around this table about a proposal that's been sitting there for 2 or 3 years that somebody, Kelly said, somebody was under the impression that it was not consistent with the bylaws. And I think we need to get some real clarification about that, because it doesn't sound like that might be the case. So I think you could communicate that with Laura. Laura's a tried and true member of the staff. She's honest. She's got a lot of integrity. And I know nobody at this table saying any different, but she's also, she doesn't like to present stuff. That's not Laura. Laura is great with the kids. She doesn't love getting up in front of adults and making, huge presentations about why something went and why something didn't go. But I think Eugene could sort of, work with her and kind of help her through that process. And we could bring it back on March, I'm sorry, our
May
next meeting.
12th. I think it's May 12th.
May 12th.
So would you like to see copies of what was approved and what wasn't approved?
That would be nice.
I was told originally that Laura did not ask for I guess the grant is good for 2 years. And if you don't ask for an extension, you don't get it. So when
for a year.
For a year. So when Sean first asked about it, that was my first question, was did Laura get the extension? I was told no, but then Laura and I started talking and Laura said yes. Laura, is that true? Is that true?
She's talking about this Laura, not Laura Berry right now. But
Right,
yes.
right. Sorry about that. Spelled differently.
We knew Laura was behind this somehow.
Yes, of course.
There's Laura and then there's Laura.
Mine's spelled the right way, just so
Okay.
you know.
There you go. There you go.
Did you get it approved?
Yes, we got it approved and we got the extension approved. Yes.
Okay, so is it 5,000?
$5,000. Yes.
What was that for?
For the outdoor classroom, for the
Okay.
pavilion.
Okay. So
yeah, they would only $5,000.
we're a third of the way there. And Leanna and Laura, have you been sort of the advocates for this outdoor classroom in the past?
Yeah, like we've been doing this for quite a few years now, and we've applied for the Hicks-Nichols grant, I think 3 times. And this last time we were approved partially, but they felt that we could come up with the rest of the funding on our own, which we haven't been able to procure. So, so yeah. So, and we did speak with Jim Taft, like he was really integral. He was at the meeting when we were presenting, and
oh yeah, he'll get this done. Yeah.
And
good.
and he felt like he maybe could even do it a little cheaper, but again, like getting him and, all the people to find the time to do it has been hard. So that's why our $5,000 has kind of sat there, because we haven't, obviously Jim and the team are really busy, and so to put time and effort into building it hasn't really been possible. So it almost makes a little more sense to kind of outsource.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Even though it does cost more, it'll get, it'll get done, I guess, more quickly.
Right. So we've had meetings with Jim and Brian, and honestly, the stuff that we've asked, Jean Marie has emailed Jim as well. And she's copied me on it so we could see the stuff that needs to get done ahead of time in order to even start this process. We haven't been able to get done. So for instance, we need a permit. Apparently that has to be Jim Taft to go to the town to get the permit. He hasn't had the time or whatever to do that. We also know that we had to fell some trees. Felling trees obviously doesn't just happen by itself, although I'm pretty good with an axe. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to do that. But those need to happen too. We also want it to be put onto a cement slab. So obviously pouring a cement slab, that also we need to have somebody to do that. I do know Sean Blake had mentioned at one point that he may possibly be able to volunteer to pour a cement slab, but that also is contact and set up by Jim Taft or by Brian, which obviously they haven't had the ability to do that yet, or whatever's on their plate hasn't allowed them to do all of that. So we had to do the extension. Obviously, the extension would have had to have happened because there was no way we were going to get all of those things done within a year. And not to mention, you can't really fell a whole bunch of trees during school time onto the soccer field. So,
hey, there's nobody over there now, Laura.
Yeah, I realize now. Yeah, sure.
Just get that axe and go over there and start going right at it. But I think, Gene, you and I can bird dog this a little bit. And you now have, Joe's been spending much more time. That's that transfer we've talked about. Joe's got a lot of skill in this area too. So why don't you and I, we'll touch base and see where we are. In the meantime, I think the reconsideration, we can have that vote. May pass, may not pass. If it passes, we'll come back on May 12th, look at those amounts. I think we're getting closer. I didn't realize there was 5,000 sitting there in extension for the classroom. Yes. So that's good news. I don't think we've got far to go, but I think it's, it would be nice if we could get that accomplished in the next.
We need to invite, I think there's just a disconnect. I really think it's a communication snafu. I am writing to Laura now and I'm asking, this gives the committee 1 month. I'm asking the committee to join us for our May 12th meeting. Yeah. And we can do it just as we've done tonight. And I just think, just to clear the air, I want to know what projects were approved that night. So I think it's just a point of interest, a point of information. And as you say, David, once this gets ironed out, you and I will work with Jim Taft. This thing could go bim, bam, boom.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I watched the one at Windsor go up in 3 weeks.
I have the 3 things that were approved. Can you hear me?
3?
It was the Vermont Symphony Orchestra. There were 3. It was $300 for the fiddlesticks, $10,000 for the cross-country skis, and $500 for the flexible seating.
Okay.
I think they asked for more, but they only approved $500. Yeah. So the total was $10,800. It was approved at the last meeting.
How much? 12 Yeah. Okay, got it.
Sean, would the board like to see copies of those?
The board received the short version of those, but I have, for instance, the grant application for the Ben Fuller concert, and it includes, I'll just hold it up. Everybody can see what I'm talking about. This includes the Hicks-Nichols Grant Award process, all printed out, and then on the back, you and BJ enumerated how this grant application met the requirements for the criteria of the committee. And I know that when Laura and Leanna initially did their application, they had to do that as well. But no, what we received on March 4th did not include any evaluation or criteria statements.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure you get that whole thing. And that can come, you know what, I'll have I'll have Laura scan those, or she can send them to me, and I'll scan them to Jennifer, and they should come out. The board agendas, David, should come out a full week before the meeting. And in this case, I would say 2, so that the board could read those, the criteria is on the back of the form.
Okay. Sean, that paper that you just showed, is that one of the documents that you sent to me earlier?
Unfortunately, I did not include it in it wasn't included in what I sent out to you.
Okay. Okay.
I require
I couldn't see it, but it would be good to have that document so we can.
Well, I'm sure that the committee obviously has it in their possession, and that's why I invited them to be with us today.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have that for the 12th, and I agree, Gina. We'll try to get the stuff out a little earlier. We should be able to in this environment with, we're not getting a lot of walk-ins at the central office, and I know Jen, I think we can do it. Yeah. So.
I had a question. Can we find out from Ed what kind of, like how this money is invested, what sort of fund it's in, if it's in like an annuity that automatically pays a certain percentage every year, or if it's tied to the market in some
I
way?
was gonna suggest Ed come next time anyhow, because he could give a little brief update of where things are financially. I mean, it's tough. We haven't had a financial report, so he could do the same. He could incorporate that into that report. So that's a good idea.
Okay.
There would be a further question, and since we're all getting together, about how that committee is formed and whether there should be turnover in it and whether the same people should serve on it for 10, 15 years. I did ask that question at our last meeting, was how does one get on that committee and how is it formed? But I think we need a better answer on that as well.
Yeah. Do the bylaws don't address that, Sean?
Well, I can tell you what it says. A committee will receive and evaluate applications for Hicks-Nichols funding in the committee meeting. The committee shall consist of, and again, let me just say this is not grammatically correct, but I'm reading you what's here. The committee shall consist of fall and spring of the school year. They will then be presented to the school board at the next meeting, following at least 2 community members, 2 parents, 2 teachers, 1 school board member, and/or the principal. Awards shall be made using the criteria outlined in the purpose of the Hicks-Nichols Fund in consideration of the amount of interest available. Proposals are expected to meet at least 3 of the intended criteria. I will make sure that I upload and send this document to the rest of the board.
That's good.
Just to review, you asked about the makeup of the community. I believe that this says at least 2 community members, 2 parents, 2 teachers, 1 school board member, and/or the principal.
And do we know if the board currently represents that? Are there 2 parents on it? Are there 2 community members?
I don't have a clue. You be a community member, Kelly. I know Michelle Smith is on it. Nat Whitney's on it. Gloria Ballantyne's on it. Laura's on it.
When Jackie stepped down, she was a parent, so as well as a school board member.
Tim
But she's
Herbert.
not on it anymore.
No, she's not. Tim Herbert's
I
on
guess
it.
I would represent both too.
Yeah, Kristen, you sort of play dual roles, but I really think you shouldn't play dual roles. It sounds like it's good to revisit that part too, Sean. That maybe we could revisit that on the 4th. Look at the membership, see if it really meets that criteria. It sounds like it might not. That we've got some people that sounds like we're pretty heavy on the community side, and some of those people have been on for a long, long time. It might be time for the board to revisit that.
To be discussed next time.
To be discussed. So we have a motion on the floor, right?
Yes, we do. Is there further discussion? Okay. Anne Marie, are you willing to restate the motion?
You're gonna make me do that, huh?
I am.
Can you read?
Rebecca could read it too.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Becky, you want to read the motion? She's trying to unmute. She was on there live and in person.
She did say her
Okay,
internet connection is slow.
Here she is.
motion to, I make a motion to reconsider at the next, I put at the next board meeting, the approval of the Hicks-Nichols grant as presented at the last board meeting. I think you may have worded it a little differently than that.
No,
It's the same meeting though. That's fine.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and you might say at the
Okay.
meeting on March, whatever that meeting was, March 4th or whatever. Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds good. You're just voting
I'll
to
put
reconsider.
Dates and both board meetings in there.
Yeah, good.
Perfect.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Did I hear a nay in the background there somewhere?
Okay, roll call.
Call the roll. Baby. Call the
If
roll.
we hear a roll call, we have to, if we hear a nay, we have to call the roll. Robin,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Anne Marie,
Aye.
aye. That's
All right.
unanimous.
Miscellaneous nay from before, I guess.
Miscellaneous nay. Somebody try. That's what's wrong with this technological world. We've been hacked.
Some spouse or child in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get the appropriate invitations out for that discussion, and we'll be in communication between now and then.
Got it.
Okay, that brings us to item G, which Anne Marie, are you able to, you want to report on your meeting with the members of the BAC?
Yeah, I guess I'll just keep it short. But I met with two members of the BAC at lunchtime today, and we went over their proposals. There was some discrepancy between, I guess, what the board had recalled being discussed before the budget passed and what the BAC says that they told us. So I went to find out what those additional monies were, because I guess we all came up with about $20,000 worth of cuts that they had requested, but they were saying $100,000. So I do have a list, and it seems like it could add up to about $100,000. As Jean Marie said, it's a lot of the stuff here that they want to cut is not going to be popular. But you know, maybe it has some merit next time around if we're, you know, really trying to cut the budget because of, you know, the situation that we're all in right now. We might have a lot less money coming in next year. So I think it's worth talking about at least. And I will try to put that in some kind of form that everybody can read without my handwriting, which is how I sent it out originally. And then I guess we can discuss it at next time's meeting if that's agreeable to everybody.
That would be helpful.
I think it would be helpful, and it's going to come up. I know, David, in your report that this board has received some advice about what we could be looking at next year in terms of a shortfall in the state education fund. And so I certainly felt that it was important for this board to receive any advice from that budget advisory committee that might help us as we look at the next round, which could be pretty tough. So without objection, I would suggest that we would add that to our next agenda discussion of those specific items. Obviously, it's early to be budget season, but while the budget advisory committee service is fresh in our minds, that we should note down everything so that we're ready going forward. Okay, thank you, Anne. I believe that takes us to the principal's report.
All righty.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We have action items first.
Okay.
Sorry, Marie.
No problem.
An action item that was not included was approving the minutes of March 4th. And I have them in front of me and would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I should be marked as abstain since I wasn't there.
Okay. Let me see. I thought there was a misspelling on the name. No. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as written from March 4th, 2020, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions?
Oh, me.
Okay.
Sorry.
Robin abstained.
Yes.
That counts as a call of the roll, I would say.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay, thank you. Jean Marie, with that, are you prepared to give a principal's report?
I am indeed. So I think I'll start with, we have 5 retirements or resignations. There's actually a 6th, but I'll let David do that one. And then we've been very busy. We're going to talk about the folks that we'd like to offer contracts to in FY21. And different faculty members chaired those committees. So we'll start first with the folks that won't be returning. So Tim Herbert has been an honored special ed teacher in our school for a number of years, but he's actually employed by the supervisory union. But he has submitted his letter of retirement. And David, was that approved by the SU board, you know?
Yes.
Okay. Peter Pullinen is a middle-level history teacher who has been, he's kind of an icon, a relic, if you will, at Wethersfield School, and he has decided to retire. Jenna Brown is the guidance counselor who has just finished her 2nd year at Wethersfield School, and she has resigned. Roland Whitney is a part-time custodian who's worked 11 years for the Wethersfield School. He also is retiring. And Mary Jo Ramsey, who has worked at the school, I want to say 10 years. She is a special education para, and she is retiring.
Also, Jean, I did misspeak. I don't know that we accepted Tim Herbert. You were talking about Tim Herbert, right?
Yeah, Tim Herbert's.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've been kicked off. Can you guys see me? Oh, okay. I got kicked off for a minute, but I'm back on.
No, we got you.
So I didn't want the board, even though 2 of those people are employed by the WSCSU, they've worked in the Wethersfield School for years, and I wanted the board to be aware of that. And now on to the folks that, and I'll tell you a little bit about the committees. The history, Peter Pullin's position, was chaired by Diana Stilson, and please don't ask me all the members of the committee. I actually don't have that with me, but every committee chair worked with a number of students, parents, other people serving on those interviews. I did not serve on the history committee. It was unanimous, and they recommended Ryan Santangelo. For grade 1, I did chair that committee. That was a big committee. I think there were 8 or 9 people on that committee. 3 of them were students. And the chosen candidate was Brooke Bright. And Brooke, as you know, lives in our community and has 2 children attending the Wethersfield School. The guidance committee was chaired by Jessica Wilmot, and the unanimous consideration for that position went to Melissa Cole. She is a 7-year veteran, currently working in Hartford. And actually, David, did you work with her? No, because you've been here longer.
Yeah, no, I did not.
I called the references on a lot of these people. Melissa's references were outstanding. Actually, they all were. For special education, for Tim Herbert's position, Katie Ahern chaired that committee, and the committee selected Erica Youngling, the wife of Mark Youngling. So she will be working at the middle level this coming year. She will be employed by the WSCSU. And we had a regular paraprofessional opening. The board was very much in favor of putting that position in because of the large numbers, in particular in 6th and 8th grade. And we had one applicant. Thank goodness she was fantastic. And her name is Callista Polidor, Polidor. And she is a senior. I'm trying to think of the college in New Hampshire. And she is getting a social work degree, but she chose to apply for this position because she's debating whether or not she wants to be a teacher or a guidance counselor. So she is coming to us with a bachelor's. She's worked 4 years in a preschool program, and she's very interested in getting to know what public school is all about. We also have 3 special ed para openings, and we have no applicants. And we have put that out twice. And we have no Spanish applicants. As you know, the board has approved a 1-year leave of absence for Jen Roby, and we have put that in the local papers. We put it on School Spring, but that has not been a position that has been filled.
Jean Marie, could you just spell the last name of the history teacher, Ryan Santangelo? Is that how you say it?
Santangelo, Santangelo. Gelo.
Okay, thank you.
Santangelo.
I got 3 comments and 2 comments and a recommendation or suggestion. On the Spanish applicant, do we have any leeway? Do you have any leeway on the job application there, and whether it can be posted as a foreign language, more generalized, or does it have to be specifically Spanish?
It does not have to specifically be Spanish. The only thing we have to be careful of is that teaching position, that person has to hold a license, an endorsement in elementary foreign language. Now, we've been able to offer a 7th and 8th grade exploratory, and how we've got around that is it fell under a middle school quality standard that allowed 60 hours of what they call the arts for middle school. So that person didn't have to be certified because they were only teaching 45 minutes to a class in a rotation of every 9 weeks. So if you'd like me to re-advertise that for foreign language, I'd be happy to do so.
And can you remind us, what was the FTE on that? Is it 0.4?
It is a 0.4, 2 days a week.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it's not much of a job. That's one of the problems there.
Yeah.
I have said, sorry, Anne Marie, I'm almost done. When I have asked if we could expand our advertisements beyond School Spring, and the answer I heard to that was people who are looking for teaching jobs are looking on School Spring. But if ever there were an opportunity to bring in someone who is sort of out of the box, a single year of a foreign language enrichment teacher, you might find them in some place where a person doesn't know that they're looking for a teaching job. That if we advertise in the New York Times and put the couple $100 into that, well, you might find some creative person from Brooklyn who's looking to get the heck out and come try something different, and they might enrich our school so much.
Well, Sean, so you know, we did run it in the Eagle Times, the Valley News, and what's that other little paper that's free?
The
New York Times?
But not the New York Times. What was it? David Jennifer did that for
The
me.
Shopper, probably.
Might be
No,
a shopper of
it's
Vermont
Shopper.
Standard.
What, I think
Vermont
maybe
Standard?
it was Vermont Digger.
Or Vermont
might have been
Standard. I
that
think it's Vermont Standard.
And I also put it on the website, and I also put it on the parent link. So just so you know, that one we did reach out more than just on School Spring. Interestingly, I didn't get one applicant from those 4 additional places that we reached out.
The other thing I'll say, Sean, I know you said it might be worth a couple of $100 we'd spend. I don't want to tell you what it would cost to put a classified ad into the New York Times or the Boston Globe. It was thousands of dollars the last time we checked to do that. But I will tell you, to your point, we've expanded. We have a couple of other options now. And Gene, you and I can talk about this offline because Craig used Indeed, and is it Monster Job, whatever it is, and that apparently has this huge following of people like you're talking about, Sean. So we can go out a little bit beyond School Spring, and my understanding is that those agencies also tag on to not so much right into the newspaper, New York Times, but they have these what am I saying? The online versions of classifieds that people can go looking for. So Gene, we can work on getting that a little bit more broadly advertised. Did you say you did not get one application?
Not one. And we sent to 4 places, and Sean, you're going to be signing the bill. I think it cost us over $400 to run an Eagle. It was just a little ad, but we ran an Eagle Times Valley News. And I think Jennifer told me the bill on that was over $400. So we really did go beyond School Spring. But I am going to talk to Jennifer tomorrow. I'll send her an email, David. If she runs it again as a foreign language teacher, that might make a difference. Because
I had another thought, just a suggestion. Since we'll need the person 2 days a week, is it worth it to reach out to other schools in the area that might have a part-time foreign language teacher that maybe just for 1 year wouldn't mind working almost full-time?
Just so you know, that's how we got Jen Roby. She worked 1 day a week at Albert Bridge. And so I actually reached out to Albert Bridge, but they cut that from the budget. So they don't even have anything.
Well, maybe reach out even further, because I mean, somebody would travel, 45 minutes or so, a couple days a week to come, maybe.
Sure, I can do that.
Yeah, you can go through your VPA, Gene.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Just reach out.
Yeah. I'll make a note of that.
Last 2 comments. One, how happy I am to hear of Erica Youngling coming back.
I knew you would.
Now, I know I haven't been here the whole time, but do I need to recuse myself from this conversation?
Yeah, don't jump in now, brother. You just let your ears burn. That's really good news.
Mark, we'll expect you to genuflect in her presence. That's what we're expecting.
I do that daily.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
You should.
And my last comment on this slate is that Callista Polidor is a former student of mine. And I remember having a conversation with her in 8th grade because she is so outstanding. I can't not think of another student I'd rather see in this thing. And I remember talking with her about this in 8th grade. What are you going to do in your life? And she said this is what she wanted to do, was be in special education. And I told her, you sure about that? You look around, but God bless her. Here she is. And that you won't regret that one.
Good to hear. BJ and I interviewed her together, and of course she'll be degreed in May. I think she's at the University of New Hampshire is where I think she is. I do have her paperwork. I can look it up. But her energy was it just lit the room up. She's so excited to be a part of school and just learning. And she really hasn't decided what she wants to be. She has this degree, but she either wants to be a teacher or a guidance counselor.
And will she be in the 6, 7, 8? Is that what you said in terms of where?
Well, because of our numbers, we have, and I'm pulling from my memory banks here, but I think I have 26 in 6th grade. So we wanted to give someone to support that grade. I have 2 7th grades, and there'll be 14 in each class. And then I have a class of 27 8th graders, and Kathy Dana will be supporting them. So my biggest classes will have, and they're regular ed paras.
Okay.
Do you have anything more, Jean Marie?
I do not. I think we've covered, I was going to talk a little bit about food service, and we really covered that nicely tonight. So I think that does it for me.
That will give us under action items to accept the retirements and approve the new contracts.
Super.
Okay, David, do you have a superintendent's report?
Yeah, I'll make it very brief, just because of the hour that we're approaching. We did have one more retirement letter that came in, and obviously Jean did not announce it, but I will announce it, that after her 10 years of service to the Wethersfield School District, Jean Marie is retiring at the end of next year. So yeah, she's given us a year's notice, which is excellent.
No, she's not.
Yeah, no, she's not. That's what is that what Anne Marie said, or is that Laura?
I second that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. We got it there. We're going to put Laura in charge of the search committee.
I will tie her to her chair.
Yeah, tie her to her chair. That's right. Well, we don't have to certainly talk a lot about her dedication and support of this building and this community. And it's been an honor for me to work with her. And I know it's the same with everybody around this table tonight. But again, she's got family, she's got grandkids, she's got stuff she really wants to do. And she's put a lot of years into this business. And I think she's ready to, I don't think she'll ever stop working. I mean, I think she'll find little things to do to keep her hands in the pile, but we will certainly miss you, Jean Marie. And I thank you for the early notice, because we can now talk about a process, which I won't talk about that much tonight, but I do have even a written process that I'll bring to the next board meeting so you can look at it. It starts with getting feedback from board, community, and staff around what they're looking for in their next principal, and you kind of get all of that stuff fleshed out, and then you set up your search committee. You have those characteristics as your benchmark, and then you advertise, and Sean, very widely we try to advertise this with a great description describing the wonders of of a small town like Weathersfield and what a great opportunity it would be for somebody. And then you just start your selection based on those characteristics that you've established as a committee. And the search committee would be made up of community members, a couple of board members, staff. This has to be a community effort because the school in Weathersfield is the center of everything you do. So everybody has to be involved in that choice. I don't know what the search was like last time, but I know I've led two of those, one at Windsor and one at Heartland, and they were very extensive, and they both got really good candidates that they wanted. So, Jean, thanks for giving us the time to do that. You didn't have to do that. You could have waited till next year or the winter, but I appreciate that. And you're going out the same way you served, with a lot of integrity. So I really appreciate that. And I agree with Anne Marie and Laura that this will be hard without a doubt. So we'll talk more about that process at the next meeting. The only other thing I want to talk about, and Sean alluded to it, we sat on a, and maybe some of you have listened to the recording because I think Sean sent it out, I sent it out, but it was Mark Peralt, who's the financial director of the Joint Fiscal Offices for the state of Vermont. And he basically was painting, the tax picture for the next year and what things are going to look like in terms of tax revenues, the ed fund, and it is an extremely bleak picture. I mean, right now the ed fund, it was up and doing well, not more than 3 or 4 months ago. Now it's got about a 30% shortfall, and a 30% shortfall projected to be as much as maybe even a 40 to 50% shortfall is just huge. It means that it's underwater. And if you know that ed fund for districts like Weathersfield and Heartland and Mount Scottney, we depend on that ed fund, because for every dollar we spend, we get almost $1 back from that ed fund, because we're what would be called in the old language receiving towns because of a variety of factors. But so Weathersfield town taxpayers only have to raise about 2/3 of the budget. The other third comes in from the state. So if that really gets slashed and burnt, next year we'll operate, but we'll operate frugally. The year after, the budget process for the fall of 2020 going into 2020 is not going to be an easy slide. And he pointed out, the fact that it's very simple to figure it out with the unemployment rate, and we're not collecting meals and rooms taxes, and we're not collecting sales taxes, and it's creating this incredible shortfall. They've extended the collection of income taxes till July, and even then, will people be able to pay their income taxes? The people that owe income tax, it's a pretty bleak picture, and so. I think in many ways this COVID-19 virus has brought this country and the state and our local communities to our knees economically. And I don't know, from a philosophical standpoint, maybe we needed to go there. I don't know, but the bottom line is we're there, and it's only going to get worse on the other side. So I don't mean to be the prophet of doom, but you certainly, if you were on that call, you'd know what I'm talking about. So we are being frugal this year. We're trying. We've got a budget freeze going on right now. We've pretty much frozen new hires, other than the ones that are replacing people. We're not hiring even replacement support staff right now until this all sugars off. And we negotiated a successful contract with support staff. We're trying to bring the teacher contract to a close. We've been exchanging some electronic proposals, mostly around salary, but we're having to be very conservative there too, because we just don't know what the future holds. And Sean serves on that negotiating committee. I think an executive session. I don't know if are we going to do a quick executive session, Sean?
Yep.
Yeah, he'll kind of talk to you about where we are with negotiations, but I think that's it. Other than all the support and work that's going on behind the scenes to make this remote learning happen, we have a couple of teachers online right now, Laura and Leanna and Jean as the principal. I know that I've said to them and they've said to us that I think we've worked harder and had more meetings and more emails and phone calls than I've ever had in my entire career. So it's not easy work, and I just thank everybody for the work they've done. And I say this all the time, I thank the school boards because they've let us, we don't get a lot of micromanagement by our boards. They trust the people they hire and they let us go, and thank God that you're not cluttering our email boxes with, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? You've been very good about supporting Jean, supporting me, supporting your teachers, and we really appreciate that. So that's it. That's it from me tonight.
Okay. I want to lay one down on that last section that about not cluttering your email and not objecting to anything, because and I know it's not quite that simple. I'm sure that everyone is giving you room to make decisions that you have to make. But if there's been where there have been things that I've not agreed with, and I know other board members have also contacted you, we are your loyal opposition, David. And that
emphasis on loyal.
Will acknowledge that not all of the changes have gone by unnoticed and unobjected to, but that it is true that we do support you, but it's not true that we have not objected to anything.
Yeah, no, I maybe I overspoke there, or I do get occasional emails from the Wethersfield board about certain things.
There you go.
That's it.
Thank you. And I want to draw attention to one aspect that we did go back and forth about, which is about a change in food service, which is that in the midst of all this, as it turns out, Cafe Services was not getting the job done for Windsor and West Windsor in terms of these new conditions that we're in. And it is my understanding that Craig really rose to the occasion in that situation. And in fact, it was decided to buy out Cafe Services from their West Windsor contract. And so that what really was originally the aim of the Wethersfield and Heartland boards to have the whole SU go in on this new food service has been accomplished through essentially a battlefield promotion.
That's correct.
Because of the way that Cafe Services was not able to respond well in the COVID-19 crisis, they have been bought out, and you have made the decision to expand that service so that it's no longer just Wethersfield and Heartland employing Craig. It's going to be all of the towns in the SU sharing that service, so that this independent food service that has been so great for the two towns that built it is now going to be covering the whole SU. And there has been hiring as well of an assistant for Craig. And I just wanted to say, this because I talked about it in the SU meeting, that I thought that the Wethersfield board and Heartland boards should have been brought in on that decision. I understand why you did it the way you did in the crisis, and two, I, as the chair of this board, support the ultimate outcome, which is that the whole SU will be covered by this food service.
That's why I think when you call it loyal opposition, I trust that's what it is in a lot of ways. And I will tell you, one of the reasons this was not, I never made this public, but Jean Marie will attest to this. One of the reasons why we were gonna do this joint self-op in July 1 anyhow, we pushed it up. One of the reasons we pushed it up is when we realized, through all of the reasons Jim Taft gave you tonight, that we had to centralize this program, and we knew we had to bring workers together in one building. There were several Wethersfield people in the kitchen and several Heartland people in the kitchen that would not work in the same. Some of them had one of the Heartland employees had worked for Cafe Services and said, I ain't going over there if they're over there. So that kind of got us scrambling and got Mount Scottney scrambling to do that settlement agreement. And they'll, Mount Scottney will bear that cost and they'll do it. But it really was to set up this flagship program with everybody working as a team. And unfortunately, because of a bunch of corporate, pieces that I won't get into detail, it was not going to work with cafe services in the middle of all of that. So you're right, Sean. It was a decision that had to get made, and I made it. And had this been a different time, I probably would have done more checking in, and maybe I should have done that. And I do apologize for that, but I think in the end it's going to work, and I'm glad that in the end you support it, because that's critical.
Well, thank you for taking it on, and I know you probably had some sleepless nights.
A few, yeah. That's the truth. Yeah, and I've been worried about everybody that's been involved in that food service program, because they are literally risking their lives in a lot of ways, those bus drivers, and so it is something that keeps me awake. It really is.
Are there further questions for David from the board or anyone else? Okay, thank you, David. And did we go over? Yeah, we did action items. That brings us to our executive session, which should be brief, but that's where we are.
Did we vote to hire those teachers, Gene? Did we have a vote?
Oh.
Yeah, we probably should vote to hire those staff members.
Yeah, we should.
Well, and you haven't accepted all the resignations. I know that Rowley wrote a letter and it was presented at the March meeting and not approved. So I can go through the list again. And
I would at this time ask for a motion to accept the resignations of Tim Herbert, Peter Pullinen, Jenna Brown, Roland Whitney, Mary Jo Ramsey, and effective next year, Jean Marie Oakman.
So moved.
Behave yourself, Laura.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I would then ask for a motion to accept the recommendations to hire Ryan Santangelo, Brooke Bright, Melissa Coble, Eric
Cole, C-O-L-E.
C-O-L-E.
Melissa Cole, Erica Youngling, Callista Polidor. Is there a motion?
So moved. This is Robin.
Is there a second?
Kristen seconded. And Mark, Mark asked about recusing. He probably should recuse himself on this vote.
I recuse myself on this vote.
Done.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Mark.
Well, Mark recused.
Mark abstains, yeah.
Mark recused. Rebecca, the minutes should just reflect that Mark recused himself.
Good. The motion carries. Thank you. With that, I believe, unless there's further things I didn't think of, we would have a motion to go into executive session.
With or without administration?
Yeah, I don't think you need to be there, Gene. It's not going to be related.
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
That's good.
Do we need to?
What?
Do we need to set the next agenda?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good idea before we go into executive.
Yeah, thank you. Let's do that. Okay.
So foreign language, Becky, we're going to explore if we have any new foreign language applications. And of course, we'll be meeting with Hicks Nichols. I already sent that email out asking for a meeting.
We can get a financial statement from Ed. So I think financials should be on the agenda.
Yep.
Probably a COVID update might not be a bad running agenda item, just to see where we are, what mood the governor is in.
Also, wasn't Ed going to be checking out the history of Hicks Nichols money?
Yeah, we'll roll that all into his report.
Okay.
Did we want to review the BAC recommendations or?
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Thank you. Okay, Becky, you have BAC recommendations, financials, COVID-19 update, and Hicks Nichols.
And foreign language.
Yes, I have all those.
And also, I'm going to reach out to Katie Ahern to ask about the SPED Paris. We're down 3, so we might have foreign language and SPED Paris to talk about.
Anything else? Okay. Then if there's a motion to go into executive session.
Move we go into executive session.
Mark moves.
I second that. Ann? I second that.
And seconds.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Becky, would you like us to email you when we get out? And any action
Sure.
taken? Okay.
Yeah, I can send that to you, Becky, or Sean will. One of us will.
Okay. How do I get off?
Yeah, just go down.
Hang up the little phone in the middle.
Just click in the
Yeah, click that little hang up. Click that little hang up. Look at the phone.
Thank you, Becky.
I'm
You're
heading
welcome.
to be
Bye,
well.
Jeannie. Have a good rest of the week.
Take care. My
you.
son is in Glens Falls Hospital. They're testing him for COVID-19.
Oh, God, Jeannie.
So,
Unbelievable.
yeah, not good, not good. All right,
Not good.
Take care, Jean.
take care.
Good.
Take care.
Yeah.
I see Anne Marie's on, Kristen's on, Mark is on, Robin's on, and Sean is on. So that is the board. We are in executive session.
Do we stop recording now or?
Excellent point. Thank you. Who reminded me? Is that Anne Marie? You are on
Yeah,
top.
that's
of
me.
it.
She's on it.
Okay. Okay, that's 2 points for Anne Marie. Okay, we ratify the support staff contract.
I make a motion that we ratify the support staff contract.
I second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of ratifying the support staff contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's 5-0, right? You know what, Mark? It probably wouldn't hurt for you to. Did you make that motion, Mark? No, you seconded it, right?
I
Oh, that's
seconded
right.
it. It's for support staff.
Yeah.
though.
All right. Good. Good. Sorry about that. Support staff.
No, that's fine.
No, you're good. You are good. All right. And Sean, I can shoot these minutes. We just need a motion to adjourn, but I'll shoot these minutes to Rebecca.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I move
Robin.
to adjourn. It's my favorite one.
It is. Now it's all coming back to me. Oh, she wakes up right on adjournment.
Right.
Who seconded
Second
that?
by Sean.
Sean.
Yeah. All
And
those
this-
in favor?
That's
Aye. Aye.
all right. That's
That
5. All right. This was great. It worked, right?
It did work. Worked well.
I mean, it's not wonderful, but I mean, it happened. Everybody gets to, see each other and
Yeah.
Say their piece. Yeah. Good job.
It was so late. One of my security features locked me out of my Google account. So
Yeah.
through hoops.
I was going to say that's a good hour right there. Yeah.
And my Google account was the opposite. I was unsure how to get into my WSESU account, so I just used my password from 14 months ago, and it worked.
Did it really? There it goes. They didn't change it.
And
Yeah.
my whole account was still there, including when I wasn't even on the school board.
Yeah.
You knew you'd be back, Robin.
Your WSESU account, as you know, is a Google account. So
Right.
that's always one way to go. But all right, thank you all, and we'll keep you posted, and it'll be good when we can all get back together again.
Yes.
Take care.
Amen.
Be well.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.